Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
Welcome to the second day of Plug and Play Fintech and Enterprise Tech Europe 2022. I am Francesca, and together with Anya, we would accompany you for the day. After the exciting first day focused on the technology disrupting the financial industry, today we are ready to continue with bringing you hands-on insights from enterprise tech. This year, we have seen major disruptions in AI technologies, workforce optimization, customer engagement, and data security. Companies all over the world are undergoing a digital transformation journey through the adoption of emerging technologies that improve efficiency, customer experience, organizational culture, and security.
We are here in Frankfurt, Germany, and we would love to know where are you dialing from. So please use the chat to tell us where are you now. You can do it using YouTube, Hopin, and LinkedIn. Additionally, as participants, you can also interact with each other in a chat, LinkedIn, YouTube, and so on. Let me see who we have here. I'm seeing we have some participants from Spain, UK. Hello, everyone. US, good morning. Hi to Brazil. Amazing to have you here. Italy, lovely. Let me quickly tell you what we have planned for today. We will kick off with a fireside chat on the importance of AI, followed by a panel on customer experience. Next, there will be a discussion about the future of work, followed by a keynote from Chevalier from Nomadic Labs, developing and promoting the adoption of Tezos. After that, we will listen to the pitches of 9 amazing startups, which are developing enterprise tech solutions. And now I would like to walk you through our Hopin. So please have a look on the agenda that I mentioned today, that I mentioned before. You can go to the stage to watch us live. Here is the stage. You can see all the sessions that are happening right now. In order to network, please use the Expo feature. To join our panelists, join the startups that we'll be pitching tonight. And as mentioned before, if you want to chat with each other, please use chat for that. And now I would love to hand over to the director of Plug and Play Frankfurt office, Bob Rowe, to tell you more about the vision bringing us here today. Hi, Bob.
Welcome
on stage.
Yeah, how are you doing? Good, good. We had a really eventful day yesterday, so really looking forward to today as well.
That's true. I'm super excited for today. The stage is yours.
Perfect, thank you. So hi, everyone. Thanks again for dialing in, and thanks for tuning in wherever you are today. Before jumping into the exciting panels and pitches, I'd like to give you a brief introduction to Plug and Play, as many in the audience are engaging with us for the very first time. So there are 2 main business activities we do here at Plug and Play, namely venture capital and corporate innovation. We are proud investors in some of the best companies, as we make around 200 investments per year, focusing on early stage startups. Last year in 2021, 15 portfolio companies have claimed the unicorn status or had a 1 billion plus exit. So now on to the next slide. Along with our investments, we are supercharging innovation activities of over 500 large corporations across the globe, working with industry leaders such as Daimler, Walmart, and BNP Paribas. With our global footprint, we help you and the tech ecosystem to foster innovation and collaboration. So the Frankfurt office was opened in 2018 to service financial institutions across Europe. Today, we're expanding our offerings to enterprises of all industries. So please reach out to us at frankfurt@pmptc.com if you'd like to learn more about us. With that, I'm handing it back to Anna.
Thank you, Bob. Let's see you again here on the stage later.
Perfect. See you later.
See you later. And now we will move on to the first Fireside chat. Big tech companies invest billions of dollars building and embracing AI technologies, but also cooperating with startups developing those. But what are the biggest challenges and opportunities for big organizations in adopting those technologies? Today, we would have a chance to learn more about it during the Fireside chat with Alexey Posternak, Chief Financial and Investment Officer at MTS AI, our great corporate partner. And the chat will be led by Liza Donskaya, Director at Plug and Play. Welcome, guys. Hi, Liza. How are you today?
Hello, Anna. Very good. Thank you. How are you?
Where are you dialing in from?
I am dialing from Paris.
Perfect. Lovely to have you here. Today with
Thank
us, Liza from Plug and Play Paris, Alex from dialing in from Russia. Alex, can you hear us? I guess we have some technical issue, but no worries. We're going to solve it soon. Okay, so let's just wait a couple of minutes or maybe seconds for Alex while our tech team tries to resolve the problem. Perfect, we are back. I will be happy to introduce you again. Today with us, Alexey Posternak, Chief Financial and Investment Officer at MTS AI, our corporate partner, and Liza Donskaya on the other side, Director at Plug and Play. Welcome again, guys. Liza, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Anna. Hello, Alexey, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to have you today, and it's been a pleasure for us to work with you in the last, I think, 6 months, right?
Hello, Liza. Yeah, hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, I think we've been working closely for about past half a year. So it was an exciting experience as we managed to launch our acceleration program together. And this is, I think, very prospective.
Right, I completely agree with you, and it was a pleasure for Plug and Play. Could you tell us a little bit maybe more about MTS AI and Tema? With what intention have you created Tema, and how it completes the ecosystem of MTS AI? And maybe I think it's necessary to mention that MTS in general is one of the largest telecom operators in Eastern Europe and in Russia as well. And you've been working a lot with MTS before, right? And can you tell us a little bit more about MTS AI and Tema in general?
Yeah, so first of all, just to give some brief explanation. So Tema is the abbreviation of Intelligent Machines. That is the brand that we created for this new initiative. We are part of MTS, which is as you mentioned, these are the largest mobile telecom company in Eastern Europe. But we deal purely with artificial intelligence. So first of all, because we see huge opportunities in AI, that is one of the reasons that we decided to focus on that. We have another thing is that we have strong competences in AI. And the idea is to find new interesting applications of artificial intelligence. So given our strong competences in that area, it helps us to identify new niches and go into these niches and implement new products as a standalone company or inside the MTS group as well.
All right. And can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the business models around the MTS AI and Intema as well, and your investment philosophy? I know that you're investing a lot as well.
Yeah, so actually our business model consists of 3 streamlines. So first one is the in-house development studio, or venture studio as we call it, where we can develop products from the very early stage, like from scratch, and then we can make some new companies out of these ideas. The second streamline is the accelerator, so where we can boost the companies on the later stage, but still seed stage or close to around A stage. And then we can support these companies or other companies on the later stages up to growth stage with the VC fund investments. So that helps us to work with all parts of the value chain in the area of artificial intelligence, and that actually broadens our opportunities. So in all of these elements, we work closely with the companies. So we have hands-on experience in the companies, and we actually we help to create value inside these companies.
All right, interesting. And can you tell us why AI? Because I mean, it's a hot topic for all the companies, I think, right now. But why have you decided to specialize solely in the artificial intelligence niche? So why aren't you focusing on other companies?
Yeah, first of all, as I mentioned, so we see huge opportunities in the AI segment, and we have strong competences in AI. The idea is, and that is part of the investment philosophy, is we want to be a deep expert in some niches. So we need to target on some niches, and we don't want to be a generalist like most of the funds are. Actually, that is good for diversification of the portfolio, but that is not so good when you're trying to evaluate the companies and assess the investment opportunities, as you cannot be an expert in many areas. So we want to focus on one particular niche, and this niche is AI. First of all, as we have good competences in there, we have good experience working with AI companies and growing strong AI companies. So in our team, core people, these people are entrepreneurs and investors, VC professionals. So we can actually leverage that experience. So that is the reason.
All right, amazing. And I know that recently, you've launched your startup accelerator program in January, right? Just in the beginning of January. Can you tell us a few words about it?
Yeah, so that was a very exciting experience. So we launched together with Plug and Play the acceleration program. So that is a very custom-made and quite unique program on the market, as it's not for different segments, but only for AI segments. We have a 12-week program, which is very customized and actually suits for different types of companies with different types of products on different stages of development. So first, the expertise of its mentor and advisory board. So we gathered about 45 mentors and experts from top tech companies, R&D functions, companies like Google, Facebook, NVIDIA, Samsung, and so on. So we these people work closely with the companies. We have a number of one-to-one sessions. So we dive deep inside the technology and the products of of our portfolio companies. So helping them to improve the technology, helping them to improve the product and find their market fit. So another thing is the support that comes from the partners of ours. These partners include not only Plug and Play, but NVIDIA, Intel, SAP, and others. And we provide many ad hoc perks to our portfolio companies, like computing powers, like the Salesforce opportunities, AWS, Google Cloud, Miro deal, and others. So total value of the perks is more than 100K. Besides that, we give 100K inside in cash inside this acceleration program. And we also can fund the companies afterwards from our VC funds, and together with our investment partners. We also managed to build a network of other investment funds who are interested in AI. These are generalist funds, large generalist funds that have some exposure on AI in their portfolios, and also medium-sized deep tech funds that focus purely on deep tech and have very strong exposure to AI. So now we plan to build syndicates to invest in the companies from our batches. And another thing we are building is the network of potential customers that come from the corporates. So many corporates are nowadays interested in different types of AI solutions. So that's also important for the companies, so we can help them to obtain their first revenues or increase their revenues in case they have some revenue traction. So that is, I think, another good point. We also can pilot the products, the existing products and new products of our portfolio companies in our own ecosystem. So we have a good ecosystem of MTS Group, which consists not only of the telecom business, but also of the fintech, media, and other businesses. So we can try these products there and actually start help companies to start receive revenues or increase revenues. So that is actually just some parts of the acceleration program. So just to mention.
Thank you. I mean, so many things at the same time. It must be an exciting program. And speaking about the industries, so what kind of industries does your startup operate in normally? Can you give us like an overview?
Yeah, so given that we focus on AI, it actually narrows a bit the investment focus on one hand. On the other hand, artificial intelligence is nowadays everywhere, so almost everywhere. So and applications are in various industries. So we with the first batch that we launched, so we received more than 800 applications from the companies from more than 50 countries. And the industry segments are also very different. So and that is good actually, because we can diversify somehow the portfolio. So we received applications from the companies that operate in telecom, that operate in e-commerce, that operate in agriculture, in manufacturing, so in many industries. And that is also interesting thing that we can find more and more applications of artificial intelligence, because you can actually have the technology which is already implemented in some industries, and there is some good penetration, for instance, in the banking industry. Say like computer vision, for instance, is applied in banking a lot, but it would be interesting to implement computer vision in other industries, like retail is on its way, and other industries as well, like agriculture, for instance. So where the penetration is still quite low.
All right. I mean, that sounds really exciting, and we're happy to be part of this journey and to help you with your startup program. Anything else you would like to share with us today?
Yeah, I think we discussed most of the things about our company. Just to add that we are interested in new partnerships with new investors, with new corporates, and also we are interested in new companies that can apply to the acceleration program or can apply to the VC funding. From the VC fund, we invest from $500,000 up to $10 million. So we are also interested in new deals. So just in case you are in the process of fundraising, you also can apply to our site and negotiate with us.
All right. And would you have like a second batch this year so the companies can go and apply now already, or anything?
Yeah. We plan as soon as we will land the first batch. That would happen at the end of the first quarter. We would be gathering the request for the second batch, and we already started to get the request for the second batch. So it's good if the companies will apply early, will be early appliers, because we would have more time to estimate the companies and evaluate them, because we were in a rush during the first batch. So we received so many applications. We didn't expect there would be so much applications. So we hardly managed to cope with that workflow.
But it's good. I mean, it's good that you have such a strong interest from the startups. Is there any specific place or person they should, write to apply, where they can apply, actually? So if there are some startups that are looking at
our site, so that's
right.
Intema AI, Intema.ai, or we have the F-Success form where they can apply through F-Success.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Alexei. I mean, it was a pleasure to have you here today, and it was a pleasure working with you. I mean, all the best to the startups from the first batch, and we'll see and track the success stories. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you very much indeed, Liza. Great pleasure working with you and Plug and Play team. Thank you.
Thank you, Liza and Alexei. That was great. AI startups that are watching us, don't lose the opportunity to apply for the Intema Accelerator this summer. And now we're ready for the next panel on customer experience. With people spending an increasing amount of time online, the importance of a good customer experience has become a key differentiator for many apps and software firms. But customer experience isn't only important in the online world. Today, we will hear from our speakers how firms can create the best possible interaction with their customers and put customer experience first, both online and offline. So let me welcome on stage Sebastian McClintock, Global Director of Customer Experience at Delivery Hero, Robbie Hornick, Director of Sales at the Berlin-based AI startup i2X, and Markus Nessler, Head of Customer Experience at Samsung Electronics. I will now leave the floor to Carlos Garcia, Managing Director at Big Buy, a European leader in the wholesale industry. Welcome, Carlos. Hello, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. And, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you, Plug and Play team, for having me and Big Buy to moderate this panel. I'm excited about the opportunity to share the panel with this group of professionals. So I'm sure that we are going to enjoy it, and we are going to have a lot of time to talk about customer experience, okay? So let's get started. Well, I would like to start talking about one thing about Big Buy. So with Big Buy, we are a wholesale platform that we are specialized in supply product, logistics, and technology to companies that sell online. Okay, so our company sells to other companies. We have a B2B approach. But in our company, we take into account very, very seriously the customer experience, okay? The way that we do is that we have OKRs. We work like OKRs, objectives and key results. So I have to say that the top management, we choose for 3 years in a row an objective, a main objective that is related to improve the customer experience. So that's the way that in Big Buy, we ensure that all the departments are aligned to the customer's experience. And there is a question I would like to ask the rest of the panel. How does the customer experience impact other departments within your companies? So I don't know, maybe Sebastian, can you start?
Sure, happy to. Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, very, very good question, very important question, very complex question, right? If you think about it. So in the company Delivery Hero, we are a food delivery company, right? So you can open an app and then you can order groceries, or you can order from a restaurant, and then our logistic brings it to you. And we do this in more than 70 countries by now. So customer experience for us from a global point of view is very diverse, right? So the expectation is very different. That's why at the company itself, we do have lots of different KPIs focusing on the customer experience. And our main KPI is the Net Promoter Score, which we track in every single country. When we can track the trends, see what impacts the NPS, Net Promoter Score, and it's also our global company KPI. So very important measurement. The interesting part, though, if you look from a global point of view, what I mentioned, the customer expectation is different, right? So very much depends on the culture, and you need to cater to that, right? It's not that we can have the same processes, the same approaches for all our 70 countries. We have to be individualizing, or we have to individualize them, right? So one region it works this better, some other regions work some other things better. So it's very important to really understand what are the customers, what are they expecting, what do they want, and also what's the competition doing, right? So we need to understand in like a customer experience ecosystem.
And Sebastian, in your organization, how do you ensure that all departments are aligned to the customer experience goals?
Yeah. So as mentioned, we do have a company-wide KPI, the NPS, Net Promoter Score, and and we have also targets for them, right? So we have a company target for the NPS, and then each country has to participate, right? Each country has to ensure that, first of all, measurements are implemented, which is done by my team centrally, and make sure that they act on the findings, which means if they see that the Net Promoter Score goes down, right? So what could be the reason for that? And then the reason could be, for example, the delivery. Something is not right in the delivery, the customer is waiting too long, or the communication around this topic is not working the way it's supposed to, so on and so forth. So this gets cascaded down then to the different teams who work on that particular item. Let's say logistics, let's say the team who is responsible for the model of delivery time estimate, right? So this is basically the objective of my team, of the customer experience team, to understand holistically which journey stage are the challenges, and then figuring out in that particular country region who works on that, and then together with that particular team encounter the challenges, the issues, and make them better.
Yeah, amazing. And Marcus, how is in Samsung?
Yeah, most of you know Samsung for smartphones, TVs. Some of you will know we are selling washing machines, but we sell even ultrasound or 5G networks, and even solutions like Samsung Pay, for example. And you can imagine we have B2C customers, but we have even B2B customers. And I think everything related to customer experience starts with insights, with analytics, with listening to the customer, and of course, learning what the customer wants. So this means we need to understand the customer's perception about our products, about our process, about the solutions, the offers, the service, how we provide them to the customers. But the good part of the digitization is, from my point of view, it's more cheaper and much more easier than ever before to be close to the customer and to get their knowledge or their experience and how they judge in it. Yeah, so we are asking the customers about Net Promoter Score. We ask for customer effort score, for example, and we spread the results in entire company. So everybody in the company can understand for his area of responsibility how the customers evaluate the experience with Samsung, with the products, with the solutions. And I think this is the starting point. And then based on that, of course, all the departments needs to contribute in order to improve the customer experience.
Okay, Robbie, maybe you can share with us your experience also in your company, but also the solutions.
Yeah. So what we are doing here at i2X, and I don't want to spoil my pitch later, so everyone is invited to join the pitch session. So what we do, we created with i2X this, we call it digital assistant, and it's basically what Marcus already said. It's about you have so much data, and with all the digitalization stuff, just combine it, and then you get a better understanding. And so what we see is like we have this way of augmented communication. So we are not big fans of automating everything. So our way is more really augment the human being, so people in service, for example, or in sales, and bring together the best of both worlds. So really understand what's going on in real time during customer conversations. So we are focusing on conversations, so not typing, so really conversations such as phone calls or Zoom conferences, etc. And then bring it together and make the best via AI capabilities, get insights out of it, and say the right thing at the right time to make the customer happy.
Yes, we are saying already that the technology and the measures, the KPIs are very important. But I don't know, probably you find out some limitation in technology from time to time, Robbie, or maybe you can give us more insights of this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's always like if you just open up a magazine and it's all about AI. So AI will take over the world. This is what we read since, 15 years. And you really need to have a deeper look into it. So the expectation sometimes is that you buy a fancy AI product software, then you install it, you do nothing, and then after 10 days, it tells you need to do this and do that to increase this KPI and this KPI. So this is honestly, maybe at some point in time that will happen, but this is not the case right now. So it's also the same like with the autonomous vehicles, right? There were people like 10 years ago, they said in 2020, we have full autonomous driving everywhere in the world. No, we don't have. It's a really complex thing. We do have assisted driving. And this is the same also, at least from our experience with customer experience and all the stuff around it. Doesn't matter if it's service or sales. Yes, there are tasks you can do 100% automatic. Like if you call somewhere, where's my flight leaving? This is quite easy. And a chatbot or whatever can answer this. But if you really have detailed conversations and a lot of interactions, there are AI and all the stuff around AI. There are borders. So this is why we think it's somewhere in between. For complex stuff, it needs to be augmented.
And it's like you're playing catch up, right? I mean, if the customer, the preferences, the expectation, they change, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and then if you build the model, and then half a year later you say, oh shit, it changed. So now you start all over again, right? We have to retrain the model, put in time, and then by the time it works great, then it changed again. So you're always playing catch up, and that's the challenge, I think, of customer experience. It's if you think you understand it, then you start all over again, right? Also with the whole technology, and Marcus, you probably know better than I do, with the technology, how it developed over time and smartphones, right? It was great 20 years ago when we had a phone, we could call and had a little, I don't know, a SIM card, and was so expensive. When you're the young person said, hey, mama, can you call me back? I need to save money, right? So now we call 24/7 on the line because it costs nothing anymore. And the data volume is almost it's a lot what we can do now. So it changed. Therefore, the customer changed again due to the environment. This also we need to take into account when we develop models, when we develop or when we wanted to understand the customer insights, take the environment into account, take all the other data points you have, the sources, the operational data, financial data, make sure you understand the holistic environment ecosystem and not only rely on the feedback from customers.
Yeah, I think basically you are absolutely right, and I agree with Robbie regarding the AI and the development in the past years. Yeah, but on the other side, we need to see that often enough some of these developments, they are happening like exponential growth. And if these solutions are there, and if they are developed, and if AI or chatbots or whatever it is providing efficient solutions and really helpful solutions, then they will spread faster than ever before. And we cannot just say, okay, chatbots developed in the last 5 years very slowly, and therefore we can take some time before we implement them. I think this is something where we need to be careful, and therefore I think all the people and being responsible for customer experience should take care on AI. They should take care on what 5G, IoT means. Yeah, we are in challenging times. We are in big transformation, or let's say in several big transformations. Yeah, of course we have the digitization as we already experienced in the past years. Which is, for example, responsible that more mobile users or mobile devices accessing our web page than computers, for example. Yeah, and but on the other side we have 5G, AI, IoT. Maybe you know that today already 20 billion devices are connected to each other by internet. We expect there will be 100 billion devices connected, leading to a hyper-connected world. That's what we call it. Yeah, and most probably not all Samsung devices. Yeah, but there will be big opportunities for many companies, but even big risks for some companies. Yeah, and we see that we have a continued transformation on how customers deal with companies. Dealers and retailers are disappearing. We cannot push customers anymore to our stores because most of the customers, they do online sales or they do online orders, they do everything online. Yeah, but of course the retailers will not disappear completely. Yeah, but we need to have new concepts on that. Yeah, and I think that's the same for the banks and insurance companies. Yeah, and customer behavior is more and more demanding. They compare us with companies which are not our competitors. They come to us and complain about we are not offering a solution they saw at Emirates, for example. We say, okay, we are not an airline, but we see the customers are comparing services and solutions from other companies. Yeah, and I think that's something we need to be prepared, all of us.
Absolutely. This is one of the challenges, and the technology that we were talking before also open a lot of challenge. I don't know, from your point of view, Sebastian, which are the next challenge in the next years inside of the field of customer experience?
Yeah, for me, the next challenge is the combination of the different data sources, what I mentioned a little bit already. So for us, it's really crucial as a food delivery company, we're having a very small margin in the end of the day. So it's all about volume for us. And there we need to understand how can we generate that volume from the operational side. What are the things that makes the customer coming back to us and order again and again and increase the frequency? So not only order once a week their lunch, maybe order 2, 3, 4, 5 times the week their lunch. Or that we need to understand what's the financial impact on that. If we have an increase of orders, what do we need to do from a logistical point of view, right? We need to hire more people that can deliver the orders. We need to understand what's the impact again on the business side, if we hire more people, what does it mean on operations? Do we need to change processes? So by taking into account all the different sources, also social media, right? Not to forget social media. There's the comments on social media are sometimes different than what feedback we receive in surveys. There are so many points that we have to take into consideration to really understand how can we get more insights, financial, operational, and experience data, combine all those three together, and that will be the challenge for us going forward, I think.
Very good, yes. And maybe Robbie, do you foresee any other challenge for in the next years in terms of customer experience?
I think there are enough challenges that were already mentioned. So
there's a lot of
we need to bring up more. But yeah, I think it's really the democratization of data. So you have everything in your hand with doesn't matter if it's a mobile phone, you have the expectation, you compare Amazon to what we heard already with airlines, whatever it is with Netflix. So in the end, you take the best out of everything, and then the expectation is to have it with the vendor or with something you like to purchase. So I think this is something where you need technology. It doesn't matter what kind of technology, but you need it, and you need to make the best out of it to face this challenge and also to master it. So I think this is also my point of view on that one.
Okay, Robbie, you mentioned augmented communication. That is not the same as full automation, no? So maybe you can give us more, for me and the audience, to explain a little bit more about the augmented communication. What do you mean when you talk about augmented communication?
Yes. So what we mean by that is that we bring together, like we do imagine a picture. So you have the human being, whether it's a service or a sales agent, for example, and they have conversations with customers. So on one hand, there are people saying we can automate everything, like with chatbots. But if you really have like longer conversations, deeper conversations, doesn't matter what it is. But it's at this point, our idea is to support and to enable or to take the best out of the technology and give it to the human being. So the way how we do that is we have this assistant that is live. So if you have a chat or if you have a conversation, it automatically appears probably talk about this topic, or don't forget about talk about that, or don't mention that, for example. And this is what we understand or what we mean by augmented communication. So take the best of both, the strengths of the human being and also for the AI component.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to open another topic. Okay, in Big Buy, for instance, we have different kind of customers. Okay, we, as I say before, we are B2B company. We sell to other companies that they sell online, and we have sellers in e-commerce, sellers in marketplaces, sellers in social media, and then we have different types of companies also. You know, small startups, medium, large companies, and then we have the big groups or the big players worldwide that in one way or the other are working with BitBuy, okay? So I'm pretty sure that for us, we adapt the customer experience and different KPIs in the customer journey for every segment of customers. I'm pretty sure that you do something similar. In Samsung, I'm pretty sure. I don't know, Marcus, if you want to talk to let us know more about how you adapt to different segments.
Yeah, this is a very exciting topic because, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, we do have B2B, we do have B2C customers, but even more, we need to segmentize them and to understand what their need is, because you can imagine that Gen Z, for example, or millennials, they have completely different preferences. Let's start with channel, for example. You can't ask Gen Z or millennials to give us a call and to call center just to ask for the new products. They have other channels and other preferences. And this is completely different for the baby boomers, for example. But we see that even for different products, there are different preferences. So we have a big complex construct of personas, of segments in order to try to provide solutions for the customers. But let's say the most important thing is to understand their needs and to take the customers serious and to provide individual needs, individual solutions for those customers. Maybe let me give another example. For example, many of our customers, especially the younger customers, they don't take care to address their need or their question to Samsung. They just put their question where they are. They put it on Amazon, for example, in the question and answers directly below the product. They do that somewhere else, and we need to be present there. Yeah. So this means wherever our customers and those segments are, we need to be present there, and that's the reason why we answer questions of customers in Instagram, in YouTube, in Facebook, and soon TikTok and LinkedIn. Yeah, and you can imagine that LinkedIn is another type of customer, another segment of customer than the guys in TikTok. Yeah, but these are touch points for us, and we need to serve the customers there, because otherwise we let someone else answer. And then maybe the answer is wrong, or maybe someone pulls the customer away from Samsung. And this means for us, we cannot say, we have our own promise and we just offer, I don't know, email and call or things like that. Yeah, and the customers can come to our stores. We need to serve the customer wherever it is. And this is depending on the segments. Yeah, and I really need to encourage everybody to understand what kind of customers they have and what are the preferences. Yeah.
I guess, Sebastian, that in Delivery Hero, all this communication is through the app. I don't know if you have other channels that you get touch with the customers. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, indeed, Carlos, you're right. So lots of communications directly through the app. However, we also have some social media channels, what Markus mentioned, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook. I mean, we are there, right? But for us, it's even more crucial to really understand the segments, because competition is so easy. It's just one click away, literally one click away on the app, right? So you can, in markets where we have lots of different companies competing in the end of the day for the same customer segments, you download the apps, and then if they don't find what they need on our app, they just open the other app. It takes 10 seconds, not even 5 seconds. So we need to understand what makes them coming to us. Which segment should we focus on? Do we need to have different communication for the different segments? Do we need to have different incentives for the different segments? Right. So these are all the questions which are very crucial for us due to the business we're operating in.
Okay, Robbie, I don't know if you want to add more information and insights from your organization about this.
Well, actually, I do have a question to Sebastian, because that's exactly, I mean, that's a big issue. And maybe you can just explain a little bit more how you deal with it, how you compare the data and how you get rid of this thing that you already mentioned, and protect yourself to your competitors.
Yeah. So in the end, we wanted to increase stickiness of the brand, right? So therefore and on top of that topic, complexity is always, we are a global business, right? So we need to understand all our 70 plus countries. So how we do this, we have models in place where we can see already, or we can calculate which segment this customer will be in the near future. So therefore we can address them. For example, if we see that this customer is very likely to churn, to not come back to us, we can proactively initiate communication with them. We can proactively send out a voucher saying, hey, you have not been with us for X days or weeks. Here's a voucher, or here are the new restaurants or the new cuisine on our platform. Why don't you come back, right? So these are, I think, the initiatives that you have to, or the calculations and the analysis you have to do in order to avoid churn in your business, and to be proactive. Because as also Markus mentioned, the Generation Z, and this is our customers more or less, right? Or the one right before, the millennials, these are our customers. So then the 20s and the 30s or students, they want to communicate differently. They want to be approached differently, right? They're used to, they type in Google and find what they're looking for. They don't call in and to figure out and do research to figure out, okay, where can I find what? They're used to finding what they need. And they're also used on lots of marketing emails already, or marketing campaigns already in their life. So they are very good in segmenting what's important for me, what's not important for me. So really need to understand who to address, how to address, and how to package it at the end of the day.
We are talking a lot of about the generations, okay, but what about the culture? Different countries, do you find different approach to the customers?
Yes. So from a cultural point of view, very simple example would be the expectation on the delivery. So we have cultures, they expect that the food comes within 20 minutes. Some other cultures expect the food, it's fine if it comes in 25 minutes. Another culture of food is fine if it comes in within 30, 35 minutes. So, and then you have to cater to that, right? Or you have to change your communication style on that one. But yes, we see quite a bit of difference in the different cultures, and also the demand, right? So it's some cultures, the customers are very pushy, are very bossy is not the right word, but I'm just using it for lack of another word. So they're very bossy. They're very, they say, okay, I pay you, so you have to do whatever you want, right? Then you have other cultures that are a little bit more reserved, and they will not tell you that they don't like you in the face. They will tell it to you through 3 different channels, and then if you understand or not, it's your problem, right? So there are big nuances regarding the cultures, but that makes the job so fun. And I imagine, Marcus, is similar for you, right? The different aspects of the different cultures of the different customers and how to deal with all that.
Absolutely. We do have products which sell in one country excellently. In another country, there is nearly no demand. That happens, yeah. And we can see, for example, if we think about the touch points or the channels to communicate with Samsung in the Benelux and in Scandinavia, they are not using email anymore. Yeah, in Germany, email is really famous and really big channel. Yeah, but in other countries, they don't like email anymore. They are much more using instant messaging. Yeah, like Facebook Messenger, like WhatsApp, things like that. So we have differences in the markets. I think but the common thing is that customer centricity is the major differentiator, more and more, not the product anymore. And whenever you understand the culture, the segments, and the customer's needs, then I think you are successful in the future.
Yeah, well, here in BitBuy, at the end, that we deliver products at the customers, also we find out a lot of difference about not only the expectation of the delivery, as Sebastian said, because we also have this difference, but also the expectation in terms of the logistic inverse, the after sales. I'm sure that in Samsung, probably you have a standard service level agreements, but you will find different expectations also.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, I think it's always important to have the right KPIs. Measures drives behavior, and you need to ensure that your entire organization is aligned to it. If you're using BPO, so outsourced partners, you need to ensure that they are measured in the same way like your own organization. And if customer centricity is important, then of course you need to ensure that even outsourced partners and all the other in the supply chain, they are contributing in the same way. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that the time is almost up. So let's do. I'm going to give you a possibility of a next round. I think that we need to be brief with our questions, but I would like to take the advantage of having today you as an expert. I would like you also to finalize with some tips, advice, what next in customer experience. To the rest of the audience, give us your final tips and advice. If you want, we can start with you, Sebastian.
Sure, happy to. Thanks, Carlos. For me, the whole customer centricity, customer experience, it's a cultural change. It's a mindset change, right? You can have the greatest product, you can have the greatest materials or tools or follow-ups or whatever. If your employees don't understand that the customer should be everything centered around that, then it will not work. And it also will not work if it's top down. If your CEO says, hey, customer centricity or customer experience is important for us, let's do it. It will not work. You need the people on the ground who really believe in that and say, yes, the customer is important for me. I will make it happen today, that I will have all the customers that I'm in touch with, that they are very happy. You need also to ensure that the ones who are not facing customers like engineers or developers, they also need to understand how important they are for the customer experience, right? Even if they're in the background. But this is a mindset change, a culture change in the company, and that's the hardest and longest what a company has to do.
Okay, Robbie, if you want to give us your last...
I make it quick and dirty.
You,
yes,
Robbie.
I think it's a combination of what we already talked about. I think you need to see the opportunity. I mean, of course, there are a lot of stuff that is happening and is probably also frightening. Absolutely agree with Sebastian. It must be in the DNA of a company. And you need to see the opportunity in the end and focus on the positive stuff and make use of technology, for example, because it won't go away.
Okay, and just the last and not least, Marcus, maybe you can share with us your last thinkings about what is next and some advice in customer experience.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a paradigm shift from product to experience. Yeah, and so that's really important to understand that and to change the culture or to improve the culture towards it. And I think I want just to mention one thing, and because I had many talks to people in small and medium business saying, hey, we cannot afford it to spend too much money in data analytics, in AI and whatever, and we are already behind and things like that. I can encourage everybody to take care on that, to study and to learn and to understand what solutions are available. The train is not gone. You can still jump on the train. You can still use these technology. It will pay off for your customer centricity.
Okay, I think that is very good. I think that we can talk about customer experience, three of you and myself, but during hours and hours, but I think that the time is up. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. It was an amazing dose of insights, and I'm sure our audience have questions for the panelists. So we made sure that you have the chance to ask them in person. After every panel, you can join the speakers in the speakers lounge. So as you will see on the screen, you can go on the left-hand side of your screen and click on the Expo symbol. There you will find the speakers lounge box, and you can enter to interact directly with our panelists.
The workforce is evolving and people's outlook on how they work has shifted. Ideas around independent work, the gig economy, employee engagement, and outsourced services are changing how employees are hiring, training, and managing talent. Let's hear from our panelists what the future holds for the workplace. Please welcome on stage Anne-Kathrin Sterkel, Head of Growth and Marketing at Flip, employee app for the operational workforce. Dorota Piotrowska, VP of People at HCM Deck, the employee development platform for enterprise. Tom Keegoat, Future of Work Lead at Lloyds Banking Group. Sebastian Moore, Head of HR Business Partners Central Europe, France, Spain at DB Cargo AG. And our very own Amit Patel, Senior Ventures Associate at Enterprise Tech Plug and Play, who will be moderating this exciting discussion. Amit, welcome on stage. Welcome, everyone. Hi, thank you for joining us today. Hope you have enjoyed the conference so far. Hi, welcome on the stage today. I hope you enjoyed the conference so far. Amit, stage is yours. Enjoy.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's been fantastic to hear some interesting thoughts, and excited to be here with this team, actually. So, future work has been a personal interest of mine for a very long time, actually. So it's great to be with, some thought leaders, because hopefully that will help me frame our investment thesis, as we look into this area more. So to kick things off, I'm just going to get straight down to it. One of the interesting things that kind of we've seen since last year is that we've heard a lot about the Great Resignation. I think I've heard that it's not just a US problem; it's a global problem. The trend where people are quitting their jobs to pursue better paying and more meaningful opportunities. But besides the Great Resignation, we're also seeing the Great Retirement, where a large chunk of baby boomers are leaving the workforce. And, as the baby boomers begin to tender their resignation, this will leave a massive gap, right? And companies can, certainly fill those positions with new employees, but I feel like it would be harder to replace the specialized skills, the institutional knowledge, the kind of the secret know-how that the baby boomers have built up, over their careers, and they'll be taking those knowledge away with them. And so, I guess my question is, how do we go about kind of knowledge transfer before the baby boomers leave the workforce entirely? And we're seeing this today. And I think I'll kick the question over to Sebastian first.
Yes, thank you. Yes, indeed, this is really a challenge. At DB, the challenge is, I think, currently more focused on the retirement phase of a lot of people. So every year in DB Group, even in Germany, we have to recruit around 20,000 people. We are doing this for years now, and I think in the next 3 or 4 years, we have to deal with that. And that means topics like implementing new people in our organization, our culture is something really, really relevant. And also the topic like knowledge transfer and how we deal with that. On the one hand, we invest a lot in training. On the one hand, sure, we are an operational company, on-site training, but also in virtual learning tools. We have now more and more knowledge platforms in place where we save knowledge, where we try to save knowledge or the know-how as easy as possible to transfer it. But the problem or the challenge we have to face is now this emotional binding and also this informal knowledge transfer in this new hybrid world. Because, in the past, if somebody stepped into a new team, he or she was, onboarded by the colleagues, and the colleagues share with the new colleagues the little skills, the unwritten ground rules, the things they have to know, which are not written in policies or in some regulatories. And here the challenge is how we can share these rules, these little hints with the new colleagues, even in a hybrid world.
I'm curious to know, has anyone on the team kind of seen any companies, or from your own personal experience, perhaps through your own learnings, anyone who's adopted kind of a very robust and effective method to kind of pass on knowledge, pass on those skills? Because I certainly feel like it's been much more difficult for me personally. For example, we've certainly had at Plug and Play, we've had a lot of new kind of employees come in. We've had a lot of the kind of the younger workers who've just graduated from school, and they're looking up to me for kind of guidance, right? Skills sharing with them. And I can certainly we'll set up a call, set up a virtual meeting, and I'll walk them through kind of, I'll keep it open-ended, and they can ask me any questions they want. but I guess I do miss that kind of that in-person social element. So I'm wondering if anyone has kind of any kind of suggestions that, you know, that from their own experience or seen somebody else do it, that's worked really well for them.
Happy to share. I'm sure others will want to, but maybe let me start, because I've also had a chance to learn it, I would say, the hard way first. And I've had a pleasure of actually building a remote first company way before COVID. So collected all the bruises before, and then was maybe better equipped when COVID hit, which does not mean I don't keep learning, because we do keep learning. That depends a lot on the company culture, on the company maturity level, and so forth. But I think a rule of thumb, if I may share, as a kind of golden rule, is a good combination of, on the one hand, of course, the ecosystem. It's important. It enables, like knowledge management, harvesting, collecting tacit knowledge, as you call it, then making sure you really have good knowledge base that is, easily accessible, and it's really easily searchable, and so forth. So of course it's the ecosystem, but it's first and foremost, I think, the company culture and the fact that we really are very open about expecting it from everybody in the organization, that we have regular knowledge exchange, routines and rituals that is very much, I would say, written into our ways of working on an everyday basis. So in our one-on-one meetings, in our, daily stand-ups, in our maybe knowledge exchange afternoons that we have, even like events such as, let me forgive my language, but that's what it's called in the tech industry, fuck up nights, where we share lessons learned, really painful lessons, but people can learn from that. So I think on the one hand, it's the ecosystem, then it's the culture that is very much also in our values. This is how we also maybe give feedback to each other, that we show, okay, somebody does contribute to our values, but also it's those little routines and rituals that are embedded in everyday ways of working. And I think this is really important for collecting tacit knowledge, exchanging, also collaborative learning and cross-team maybe projects. But I'd say these three things, to start with. And this is what I've experimented a lot with to make sure it works. That this is the right balance between the three. Over to you.
And I think, just to build on that, I think that concept of knowledge exchange, and particularly something I think is almost going to become more valuable as we start to see multiple generations enter the workforce, is the concept of wisdom exchange as well. So actually, what are the things that I've learned from my time? Like, I've got the scars to prove it, to share with who people may be coming in. So how do we start to facilitate those exchanges with people that might be at very different ends of their sort of career journey and life cycle with an organization, so that they can both have this kind of mutual benefit, right? So it could be that they're deciding they're going to go off, want to do something completely different, but there's some skills that the Gen Z digital native person that's coming in might have in an abundance that can also be really valuable for that person that's approaching the retirement, for example, that they might want to increase those skills for when they leave the organization. So it's almost not necessarily thinking about what the knowledge does for the organization, but what the knowledge can do for our people and how it can help them to thrive either inside the organization or outside. And I guess the two-pronged part to that is that it really, by somebody that's new coming into the organization, actually might be feeling, what do I know? But actually there's a whole lot that person will know that will be super useful for somebody else. So it's how we just create value based on that individual knowledge and the individual things that people are able to share.
And I think we have to change because culture is, I think, the key at the end. We have to change also the culture of sharing. In the past, we talked a lot about the things, what the people did or how the projects worked or what they achieved, but they didn't talk too much about the how. And I think now we have to share more about the how they achieved the targets, what they did exactly, to share with the new colleagues why they were successful, how they managed some challenges, or what they do to be successful in the project or to achieve a certain milestone. And this is something which is really different to the way how we discuss topics or things within the teams. And this has to be an integrated part of the normal conversation, not only to talk about the what, also about the how.
Yeah, I'm glad you. Sorry, go on. Go for it, Anne.
No, I just wanted to add one more thing. And Sebastian, you already mentioned that you said it has to be an element of the normal conversation that we have. So I think what's very essential here is communication, and how do we communicate with each other. And in essence, communication is kind of key to enable knowledge transfer, but also to come up with, to bridge kind of the gap that was left behind when COVID hit and the personal social element was taken out of the equation. So in order to kind of like reestablish that and to make sure that knowledge transfer can happen, a good communication has to be the basis for everything. And that means also that we try and come up with a virtual way of working closely together and creating kind of the feeling of belonging together, of company community, and not to work in silos. Because what we see happens is that with 2 years into this pandemic, it's very hard to onboard new people, to kind of establish this company culture with new colleagues, and to help them find their place in the company. So for them, it's really the most important thing, in my opinion, is to integrate them, to include them in the conversation as well.
I really love what you said there, Anne, about community, and I think we've been talking a lot as we start to introduce offices back into our ways of working. Around, we go to offices to collaborate. And I think that's a little bit of a red herring, right? Because I think what we really go to do is to connect with others, connect with other people, connect on a human level, connect with the company we work for, and to build that sense of community. And I think as we start to go into this stage, what is it people want from their offices and them coming together and from work? It's that feeling of togetherness, that feeling of belonging, that sense of community, which I think people are going to value much more as we sort of learn throughout the sort of the different phases of the pandemic, what that's meant for people in their home lives. Now people are looking at what community means in a work environment and in the corporate landscape as well. So I think that sense of community is going to become really key as we start to embed some of the practice we're hoping to see in a hybrid environment.
And I guess if I may add to that, I think there is another layer of complexity to it. It's communication, because if you think of like the communication that takes place online, this is very much devoid of non-verbal cues and non-verbal signals. So we really need to put an intentional effort into creating this psychological safety, a term I'm so happy to see more and more now well understood and discussed. So first, this is really something we need to pinpoint what that means for everyone. So people to be really even keen and open to communicating, really enjoying it, not being afraid of admitting to, making mistakes or not knowing certain things. So I think this is also very important, that we discuss it openly.
Yeah, lots of very interesting points. I think, Sebastian, one thing you mentioned earlier was the how, and I think that definitely gets kind of sometimes lost at the enterprise level. I want to at the practical. From a practical perspective, we've certainly seen a lot of kind of like platforms in our ecosystem that are trying to kind of bridge the gap, like the knowledge gap that we talked about. Like there are companies out there who essentially map out the entire kind of the skills data, like the skills level profile for every employee, where then you can just go in and say, like, I'm looking for an expert in DevOps, or it could be data engineering or whatever, and they'll map out, like, it'll basically recommend who are the interesting or relevant individuals in your organizations who have these certain skill set that you can connect with. You talk about communication, not working in silos, and so we've certainly seen platforms that kind of try to help you encourage kind of mentorship, or encourage kind of this one-on-one meetings that need to happen on a frequently basis. Tom, you mentioned we go to the office for the kind of the for the sense of like belonging and meeting. We're social creatures at the end of the day, and so like in a remote environment, I think certain like adopting kind of platforms like this becomes even more important. And or also, Sebastian, we've all like kind of touched on my second question that I wanted to ask, which was about actually culture, and Anne touched on this really well. Actually, we've seen many companies like Coinbase, Facebook, Twitter, Shopify, they've all either moved to a fully remote or a hybrid work environment, but there are still many employers, who've cited lost company culture and reduced kind of collaboration as kind of reasons for wanting employees back in the office, at least part-time. So, because when employees are in the same workspace, their interactions can become more spontaneous. They tend to kind of interact with people more outside their teams, and it's also, some may even argue that it's easier to develop kind of a shared culture in a physical environment, though I think that argument's been thrown out with kind of like these remote first companies that have been developed, and we've kind of seen studies like how culture is critically important for a company's success, and some classic research, they've shown that an effective culture, a positive culture, you can see payoffs when it comes to like revenue growth, retention, stock price, and net income. So Anne kind of touched this, like not trying to work in silos, working more a sense of community. But curious to know, do you have any of the suggestions around kind of how can we help foster a positive culture, or creating that sense of community, within our workforce environment, especially in a world where we are going more remote, or at least moving towards a hybrid setting?
Well, may I start? I think it is also about communication. We at DB Cargo, we have most of our employees, in the shunting yards, the people driving locomotives, working in the maintenance yards. And we have also a lot of operational people in the dispatching teams who has to work in presence or in these in a more hybrid environment. But on the other hand, we have also a lot of teams who could work from everywhere, because we are a totally decentralized organization all over Europe. And we also have jobs where we advertise as the everywhere you want jobs. But the most important thing is that the team leaders, that the teams, they have to communicate how they want to work in a way which is fitting to the needs of the employee, but it's also fitting to the needs of the business. And the more the people has to build up bridges to the operational sector, the more they should work in a hybrid environment. And for me, it is sometimes better that the people are more in presence, in the shunting yards, building connections to the operational people, that we do not have two societies in the company, instead of sitting in a head office. So I believe a lot of people will work in the future more half of the week from home in a mobile working environment, and then half of the week directly connected to the people, so-called in the field. But this is a discussion which really has to elaborate it and to be discussed within the teams with all the perimeters. And the more open you discuss this topic, I think the more better the working environment is, also for the employees, but also in terms of performance.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more with that. And as an organisation where we have a number of our, so I would say probably, so we've got 78% of our colleagues that are in what we call the hybrid sort of pocket of people. And that varies in terms of the degrees of time using offices. We've then got 21% of colleagues that are either customer facing in branches or in operational centres where they have to be in, and then we call them our hub colleagues. So, I think it's so important that we don't lose sight of the fact that right throughout the pandemic, when we were enabling teams to work at home, we still had colleagues that were going in every day to serve customers. And I guess it's how do we create that sense of everyone being part of this journey, wherever you might be, and working in the open. So one of the things which we're looking to do through the work lab, which was set up at the moment, is to encourage colleague participation and conversation around what the future of work looks like for them. So they're sharing their insight and their experience of what remote working looks like, or their experience of serving customers, so that we can have that sort of ongoing dialogue with colleagues to make sure that we're working for everybody across the organisation. And I think there is so many decisions that could be made, by people in head offices without actually speaking to the people, like you're saying, Sebastian, in the shunting yards that are doing the work every day. And I speak quite passionately about this because I joined the organisation Lloyds Banking Group as a cashier 14 years ago. So I worked through those customer facing roles before I moved into sort of HR roles and innovation and where I am now. So I think it's so vitally important that we make sure we bring everyone, so that, as you say, we don't create that two-tier service. And more often than not, your organisation, the idea to drive your organisation forward is with your colleagues who are serving your customers every day. So it's how do we make sure that we give the platforms and the tools that enable them to surface those And then that also then helps us to surface the talent that we need in the future as well.
Tom, I think what you just said, and obviously Sebastian before, is super interesting. And I think the last panel that was like the discussion that was on before this one was about customer experience, right? And if you think about where does customer experience start? It starts actually with these people that work in the field, like the guys that drive the trains, or in your case, Tom, the 20% or 21% that are customer facing that work in your outlets, right? And so they are the ones that are actually the touch point to the customer. And for those people, at least until now, there is no remote working possibilities. They have to work in the field. And so what I find very interesting, or what I would like to ask you and both of you actually, is how do you bridge that gap at the moment? Because yes, I agree, communication is key for that, and you need kind of tools to do that and to ensure that there is not that we don't have these silos or these two tiers inside the companies. But I mean, maybe Tom, how do you bridge these gaps right now?
Yeah, so I think it's a super interesting one, because we've done some learning throughout the pandemic situation, right? I think a lot of this comes to opening up where you get your skilled colleagues from, and that multi-skilling element of it. So we were able to, when we pivoted back at the beginning of the pandemic, we were able to enable a number of colleagues to work remotely that were previously working in call centers. So we were able to adapt that and change it. So we were fluid because we had to be. So I guess it's that kind of crisis drives innovation. How do we continue that level of innovation when we're coming out of crisis mode is going to be really important. I think that kind of making us aware that we can multi-skill, we can upskill colleagues to take on different roles across the organization. That enables us to be more fluid and put people where we need people to be, but also give people opportunities. So again, it comes back to that retention element. I didn't think, I may not be able to see that there's a career path here for me. Oh, hold on a minute. Actually, because with the environment we're now in, if I upskill myself in this area, I've got the ability to work in a different way. So it's how do we start to provide those multi-skilling opportunities that enable us to mobilize different parts of our workforce to different places and give different people opportunities.
What we are doing currently is that we put in these topic into the conversation, which is connected to another project we have within DB Cargo, because what we are currently doing on the background of the pandemic is we move also our working environment in the head office or in the administrative departments into desk sharing and flex work. And here every team has to discuss internally how they would like to work in this new working environment with desk sharing, with a reduced space of offices. But then they also have to discuss how they would like to build up these bridges, these routes to the operational organization, that they reflect themselves, what is their purpose in the organization, what are their tasks, and how they have to work to combine these personal needs, these team needs, but also the needs in terms of business demands. And I think this is for us currently a good time for such discussions, because we link it together with all these other projects we are currently running.
If I may add to that, because you're both talking about also like how we need to make sure that we customize certain elements depending on, whether our organization is more homogeneous or not so homogeneous. Yeah. And I think from my experience, if I could share, because I've kind of helped on the, like hybrid evolution. I've consulted a couple of companies, and many of them, it was, something very new to them. Yeah, they never worked in a remote way or hybrid way before. And what we started with, and they really appreciated, was the fact that they did this kind of restating the social contract exercise. They're kind of together deciding on what are the key themes for them as a company so that they can be successful in this hybrid model. say one of them said autonomy, accountability, belonging, right? And then we had representatives from all teams who were expected to really say what the values would be important, what values would be important to really help them on everyday basis, and what desirable behaviors and undesirable behaviors they want to define to actually let that happen. And I think making that very tangible was very, very important. Having that discussion about cultural underpinnings that seem so soft and fuzzy, and as a matter of fact, they don't need to be soft and fuzzy, and actually build from there. Yeah, so like something that you all agree on is a fundament for all of us to build on. I think is critical very often, and then you can customize from there. Also make sure that these values, these desirable behaviors are present throughout the employee experience and journey. And I think this is also something I would say is a very universal best practice that could also be adopted and recyclable in many organizations to start with.
So question for you there, actually, Dorota, and based on what you just mentioned and earlier, I heard you say that you've actually built a remote first company too. So what kind of people and workplace data and insights did they analyze, or do you think we should analyze to kind of get the best possible picture of our team's engagement, their productivity, their well-being? Curious to know.
Yeah, so I think I'm really happy to see that we have this very impressive evolution of the so-called employee listening, organization collecting, I would say like typical feedback, like the most standard feedback, I would say. We call it active listening, right? So making sure we collect feedback through surveys, through one-on-ones, through maybe sometimes focus groups. So this is what, of course, is very, very important that you do that. But this is nothing new. I think we all know it now, and most companies do that. But what I think is really more and more important these days is that we really learn how to cross-analyze it with different quantitative people data, so that we have really good context, good insights. And on top of that, I'm myself very keen on the so-called organization network analysis, which is the so-called passive listening, where we gain insights on how people collaborate, how they connect. We get it through company collaboration systems, such as calendars, such as maybe project tools, such as Jira, Trello, different ones. I don't know, communication tools, such as Slack. And we should be able to analyze it on team level, what our team's collaboration patterns are. Are they conducive to efficiency? Are they conducive to work-life harmony? Are they conducive to knowledge sharing? Yeah, do we have, I don't know, too many meetings? Do we have enough deep work time every day? And so forth. I know it's a new kind of also approach, a new dimension of people analytics, but I'm a great fan myself. And if it's done with ethics at the core, it's a great new lens, and really, I think, a huge enabler if you think of moving to a very sustainable hybrid model. So yeah, these three, the combination. Yeah.
And any other thoughts on or from the rest of the kind of team? Have you seen any interesting metrics being adopted by your own organizations, by all other organizations that kind of our listeners should perhaps consider?
I don't know if anyone would like to share. If it wasn't a question to me, because I could, of course.
Oh,
yes.
No,
if you think
any open-ended. Sorry.
I'll just give one example to maybe not be so abstract. If you think of, let's say, this classical quantitative data, we say time to productivity, optimum time to productivity, or sometimes we say about time to promotion, average time to promotion. What that can be cross-analyzed with is employees' perception of development opportunities, employees' perception and sentiment around the onboarding program and how they were enabled by the organization to really reach that optimum productivity level and how fast. And now if you think in terms of organization network analysis data and insights, it could be us seeing through, those the insights. Okay, do they have enough exposure to people higher in the hierarchy level? Do they have enough exposure to knowledge sharing initiatives? Do they have enough exposure to cross-team collaboration? Right? So you have three different lenses onto how we go about developing people. Yeah, just as an example. Yeah.
So I love the idea of of becoming more data driven. This seems to be getting important, or it is important. It doesn't matter what teams you're in, marketing, HR. You don't have to be a data scientist, but it seems like this is a kind of a new skill set that we're all going to have to pick up to kind of enable us to make data driven decisions. Instead of just being on gut feelings. I think we have a last minute, so I'm curious to know if in the last minute, does anyone have any bold predictions that they'll like to make about the future of work? I'll kick off with one. I kind of read this chief product officer of Adobe, Scott Belsky. He made a really interesting point where he thinks that the younger generation are going to live a more nomadic lifestyle, at least in their 20s, right? So the idea that Airbnb wasn't available when we were much younger, whereas now you can easily share apartments, and especially in an environment where you're either fully remote or hybrid, employees have the option to go travel, right? Go to the beach somewhere and complete work elsewhere, which I thought was very interesting, and kind of agree with it too, actually, because we saw it firsthand from some of our own employees or my own colleagues, or startups that I work with. They were camping out in Hawaii or in Costa Rica when they could work remote. But any bold predictions from the group? I'd love to hear it.
I think the main thing at the moment is that we are only at the beginning of the journey now, is what I would say. This is the beginning of what the future of work might look like. We're by nowhere near the sort of point where we're embedded hybrid working, right? This is one big experiment, and the real work starts now in terms of what that looks like.
Yeah, and maybe to add to that, I think I totally agree with what Tom said, and I would like to add that in general, we should not forget these people that are on the shop floors and in the operational workers who don't have the opportunity to do hybrid work, and where they still have to be on site to do their jobs. So I think there has to be a much more exhaustive discussion also on how to involve them and to help them still feel part of the company, while their colleagues that work in the offices suddenly do work from Hawaii, or I don't know, somewhere in India from a yoga retreat, and themselves, they still have to work on the shop floor. So there has to be lots of more discussions around the topic on how to involve these colleagues as well.
Yes, just to add, I think the key will be that we are in line with this development on the one hand, but also that we are able to build the links between the people within the company, and that the operational people, that they have the feeling that they are not alone. If there are some challenges, if there are some problems, that the people from the overhead or from Hawaii are coming and are really next to them and supporting them even in presence. And I think this will be the key in the future, to have one company, or still one company, or as we said, to have a railway family.
I would just also agree with what Sebastian said. A lot of attention needs to be put to enabling leaders, helping them grow, helping them, just really be there for their teams. So everything around belonging will still be there, no matter the development and the evolution, I think. And here people leaders are critical.
Guys, thank you for your passion and amazing discussion. It was really a pleasure to listen to you. And now, our dear audience, if you want to join the speakers, ask them questions, please join the speakers lounge by going to the left-hand side of your screen and clicking an expo symbol. And now let me welcome on stage Louis Chevalier, ecosystem developer at Nomadic Labs, for his keynote on the blockchain and if it can contribute to a better future. Hi, Louis. How are you today?
Hi. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm fine.
Perfect. I hope you enjoyed the event. Yeah, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So we will discuss today about blockchain and how it can be used to enhance our daily use in terms of banking. So regarding Tezos and the company I work for, Nomadic Labs, Tezos is basically a public blockchain. So a bit of background about it. It was written in 2014 and the mainnet was launched in 2018. And ever since, we've had a lot of different upgrades, as you can see on the screen, the last one being Anzu. In terms of key specificities, Tezos is a public blockchain, which means that it's open for people to join. It is also an infrastructure that is relying on a specific consensus that is called proof of stake. And we have what we call the on-chain governance that facilitates the fact that the blockchain will be forkless. Finally, we have the form of verification of smart contracts because of the language that we are using that is called Michelson. So in terms of ecosystem, we have the Tezos Foundation that is at the core, and this foundation is helping support our environment by providing financial support to early stage companies or companies that would be interested in joining our ecosystem and using Tezos as an infrastructure. Then we have Nomadic Labs, which is a research company based in Paris. And essentially, we have around 50 to 70 engineer researchers that are working on the development and the evolution of our protocol. And I'm part of the adoption team, which facilitates the use of Tezos for corporate users, public infrastructure like governments, and our job is to facilitate the adoption, basically. So as you can see here, we have Nomadic Lab that is at the center, and then we work with what we call integrators, as well as advisors and investors, platforms and builders, and those people are part of hubs and communities, and the aim is to essentially serve our clients within their respective industries. So as Tezos is an infrastructure, we have a wide variety of different solutions, which I'm going to tell you about in the few next slides. First, we have DeFi, which stands for decentralized finance. And there we have a wide variety of use. As you can see, we've had an experiment with the European Central Bank as well as the Banque de France. So those two experiments were aimed at developing payment solutions to essentially facilitate payment in central currencies like CBDCs against unlisted financial instruments, against other CBDCs from other central banks, or against already existing digital assets. We also have a solution that is called the LUG, essentially a stable coin that is pegged one-to-one with euro. And the interesting part about that is that it is the first stable coin based in euro. We also have some applications that are more dedicated to directed money flows, such as MoneyTrack. So it allows you to track insurance compensation, for example, consumer credit, state aids like subsidies, or more simply, gift cards. Then we have tokenization mechanism on Tezos, which can be used in a wide variety of use cases, such as real estate with elevated returns. So here the goal was to tokenize 100% of a private, a real estate slot, and then to exchange it on a secondary market. Then we also have the possibility to tokenize partially a structure, as it was the case with the St. Regis Aspen Auto, located in the US. So only 19% of the structure was tokenized, and those tokens are exchangeable on a platform that is hosted on the Tezos infrastructure that is called T0. So you can always exchange your private real estate tokens on a secondary market. We also have use cases in the banking industry, especially when it comes to the issuance and the management of structured products, as is the case with Société Générale and the Forge. So this issuance was made based on a work frame that is called CAST. And here the goal is to facilitate the issuance of structured or unstructured financial products. We also have a great variety of use cases within the NFT vertical. So NFTs are non-fungible tokens. I'm sure you've heard of them. Lately, we've closed the deal with Ubisoft, which is the largest video game editor and producer in France. And the aim of that partnership was to open a marketplace on which players and gamers could exchange NFTs. So those NFTs are essentially in-game items that they can exchange between themselves against real-world money, like fiat currencies. We also have partnerships with Red Bull and McLaren. Those two equerries basically decided to use the Tezos blockchain because of our sustainability and our ability to protect the environment because of the consensus mechanism that we are using. So in this project, the goal is to create NFTs like a Formula One 3D model or outfits of the pilots that you can sell and exchange on primary as well as secondary markets. Then we have Arteia, which is a company based in Belgium. And essentially what they do is to close the bridge between a physical art piece or physical object and put it on the blockchain. So they have a free stack solution with the first level being an existence certificate, which is going to prove that the piece indeed exists in the real world. Then it is connected to an NFC chip, which is an authenticity certificate, and those two logos are then connected to a certificate of ownership under the form of an NFT, which proves the ownership of an individual over that physical piece. We have OneOf, which is basically a marketplace that was specifically designed for musicians and music lovers, where musicians are able to create their own NFTs and digital goods that can be sold to their fans directly. So they have a total control over what is being sold to their fans. Then we have solutions in the field of SSI. So it is self-sovereign identity. And in this field, we have a solution that is called Spruce. Essentially, they developed decentralized ID with different stacks. The first one being Credible. It is a credential wallet that stores your self-sovereign identity. Then they have DidKit, which is a cross-platform toolkit with Web 3.0 decentralized identifier and verifiable credentials. They also have a Rust library that is called SSI, which is able to store decentralized identity. Keylink, that is a digital signature scheme. And finally, Tezos public profile, which allows users to create portable, verifiable profiles on the blockchain. Then we have Synapse, that is a solution highly interesting for customers as well as financial institutions, as it is a reusable KYC platform. So within that solution, they have three stack. The first one being the Synapse Passport, which allow individuals to secure and store their documents through a decentralized storage. Then they have a KYC verification flow, which facilitates the onboarding for corporates. And finally, a trusted network that is made of different actors within the ecosystem. We also have a use case in the certification fields that could be highly interesting for legal companies, such as the Sword Group that is based in France. So they developed a solution that is called Tezos DigiSign, and it is essentially compliant with the EIDS European certification, and it allows to certify document on the blockchain. So you can certify point PDF, JPEG, MP3, AutoCAD format files, whatever that is digital can be registered on the blockchain and certified as a result. Then we have a program that is called corporate baking. So essentially, it is the same as validating transactions on the Bitcoin network, but the protocol is going to be different, obviously, as Bitcoin is a proof of work and Tezos is a proof of stake. So the interest in baking for corporation will be to secure the Tezos blockchain. And they also received additional benefits, especially when they are using and relying on our infrastructure to develop solutions. So those benefits are the first one, and I would say the most important, will be earning rewards. So essentially, as you are producing some kind of work on the blockchain by validating transaction, you have to be paid for that, which takes the form of token payouts in XTZ, and annual yield is 6%. You also have zero fee transaction. That is especially interesting if you are building a solution on our network, as you won't have to pay anything for your transaction. We also have predictable baking. That is a highly interesting feature for financial companies. In other words, let's say you are a financial company, you have to stay compliant with your regulators. And if someone in a country that is under embargo was to validate your transaction, you would be able to prevent that from happening. Then, because of the the rewards that are being earned through the validation of transaction, you have a certain ability to avoid dilution from inflation. And finally, because of our feature of on-chain governance, by being a corporate baker, you have the ability to vote on the future of the Tezos blockchain. So you have many ways to participate within our ecosystem. The first one will be to launch a project on Tezos by either reusing an open source code that is already existing, or you could also develop your own open source code for your solution, basically, and get a grant from the Tezos Foundation. Then you can become a baker, as I just explained. So you have the choice. You can be an individual baker, or you can be a corporate baker. If you choose to become a corporate baker, the foundation can always loan you some XTZ to do such a job. Then the final way for you to participate in our ecosystem would be to adopt an already existing solution as one of the one that you've seen previously. Or you could also participate in a hackathon or participate in one of our incubation programs. So thank you very much for your time. If you have any question, I'll be glad to answer. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can always send me an email or contact one of my colleagues that you will find in the contacts slide here. And I'll be glad to have a meeting with you to discuss the other use case that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louis. Please, guys, use the opportunity. If you have any more questions to Louis, just reach out to him. And in the meantime, we would like to invite you for a 5 minutes break. So it's time for you to grab coffee, tea, stretch your muscles, and get ready for the exciting part. So the startup pitches of the exciting companies. See you there.
And after the break, I hope you're back with us fully energized to meet 9 startups that are revolutionizing the enterprise tech scene. Now we have the outstanding opportunity to hear a short pitch by every startup. After the pitch session, the audience will vote for the best pitch of the day. To do so, please use the poll option on Hopin. Let's kick it off and welcome on stage Peyton from Arbolus, building a professional networking platform designed to help businesses and professionals to work together. Welcome, Peyton.
Hi, can you see me okay?
Yeah, all good. The stage is yours.
Stage is mine. Thank you so much. So thank you. I am Peyton Grays, EVP of Strategy from Arbolus. We are a professional networking platform that works with consultants, investors, and corporations all over the world, helping them find, engage, and manage a network of external experts. Our platform is based on 3 key areas. How do we source, engage, and manage external experts for clients? Sourcing, how do we locate some of the best people throughout the world? How do we help clients engage them, either through video, chat, messaging, or panel building? And how do we help them manage that network and make the insights that they've gathered accessible in a library over time? In terms of how clients typically work with us, most investors and consultants use us throughout their diligence cycle, looking for experts to help them understand commercial insights, whether it's about the competitive landscape, and looking for former heads of sales and commercial directors that can give them insights on the assets market that it operates in, or technical insights from CTOs and VPs of technology on the types of softwares and services that they procure. So our platform is based both on desktop and mobile, so it's accessible by clients and very easily at any time. And clients use us again throughout that sort of deal life cycle. In terms of corporates specifically, we tend to work with them in tackling information asymmetry. So, often we find that corporations are coming to us trying to figure out what's the right product for us, what's the right service fit for us. And clearly the sellers in those conversations know far more about the product than they do. So they come to Arbalist to tap our network and build a sub-network of people that can help them understand what those products are and who those service providers are, and the reasons they may have picked them in the past, and speed up that process and remove some of the inefficiency on it. On the other side of that, we help business development teams within corporates target the right customers. So when you're out in the market trying to figure out where to spend your time and what are the key concerns and purchasing criteria of your target customers, we help corporations build panels of people that may have been consumers of your product or competing products, and get you information on what their purchasing criteria are, what are their needs, and how do you meet those most effectively when you target and pitch those end customers. So from a corporate perspective, the business development aspect of it is incredibly powerful because we can build networks of highly relevant former procurers of your type of services and give you the insights on how you target those end customers. In terms of the platform itself and what we're doing to change the way that our end clients access industry experts, the concept of a professional network and doing sort of an expert related phone call is nothing new, but we're trying to expand how our clients can do that in the most scalable and time efficient way. So one of the things that we've been developing recently and are seeing great traction with is a product that we call Canopy. It is a video insights tool that enables customers to ask questions of a selected group of industry experts in an asynchronous way and gather their insights in both video and transcription on relevant questions, either again for, say, in the investor space or consultant space, a due diligence effort, or on the corporate side, an effort to learn more about potential suppliers and products that you might be procuring or end customers that you want to sell into. And we can deploy these rapidly. So, whether you're looking for an expert to speak to one-to-one, our focus is to deploy, to source and engage those conversations in hours, if not in days. And then something like a Canopy tool where we're creating a video insights survey, we're doing that just as quickly. So deploying the questions, within an hour and getting back input as soon as we possibly can to help customers make those critical business decisions quickly. We operate largely from our hub in Barcelona, but we're also in New York, London, and India. And as I said, we're working with clients across both the corporate space, the investment community, mainly on the buy side, as well as leading strategy consultancies and accountancies. So thank you for your time, and to the extent you guys have questions, look forward to Q&A in the breakout rooms. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And guys, don't lose the opportunity to connect with Arbolus in the startup booth you can find on the expo section. Now we have the chance to meet another amazing startup, Mark from Automation Hero, automating business processes with artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, so yes, welcome to our Automation Hero introduction. So who are we? We are an automation vendor, as you could probably tell, and we focus on intelligent automation. Our belief is that traditional RPA vendors and intelligent document process companies out there are starting to hit a wall in terms of some of the use cases that they're tackling, and their maybe suboptimal way of doing things. So what makes us the smartest way to process your documents through automation and intelligent document processing is the fact that not only are we AI native, which is a big thing in itself, because a lot of the traditional players are having to address this through acquisition or alliances or re-architecting and so on, but also it's the approach of the company that we take in terms of our heritage in the big data space and where we've come from. So to use that as an example, or how can I give you an example around that, is if you take an existing use case such as invoice processing, a classic automation use case there. Today, the paradigm is that you approach it by creating templates, and that's quite costly because there's a number of different types of templates out there with semi-unstructured and unstructured data documents out there. So it's quite a lot of overhead. It's quite expensive. There's services involved, a lot of resources tied up, and it's not very adaptive to change. So the enterprise loses some of its agility moving forward if it needs to deal with change. How we approach it through our deep learning capabilities is that we're able, with enough examples, clean data, and variants, to actually train a model so it's form type agnostic. So it doesn't matter what type of invoice processing document it is, we can understand it and automate it. And that's what we feel is a bit of a game changer in terms of what's going in the next stage of intelligent automation. So who are we and why are we making this claim? So our founder was one of the original contributors to Hadoop and started off a big data company, Datamir. And much of that team moved across as we started Automation Hero. What was big data became artificial intelligence. What was insights became automation. And that really was the birth of Automation Hero. So far, the journey is going well. We have customers that are acknowledging the benefits from this, investors as well. We've just raised 50 million, our Series B there as well. So we're moving very much in the right direction. And really what we're trying to tackle here for our customers is 80% or something like 80% of data out there today is unstructured, semi-unstructured or fully unstructured data. That's a huge amount of insights out there that remain untapped today, that that you're looking that you can get some more and different or optimized meaningful outcomes out there. And a lot of the providers out there today do a pretty good job of handling structured data. But in terms of unstructured and semi-structured data, that's where it starts to get a little bit complicated. And what we're proposing is, with our, again, AI native and deep learning capabilities, is that we can actually understand complex data from complex documents and do something meaningful with it. So once you've actually got that as well, there's other companies out there that might claim that they've got also an AI native capability and have the ability to contextually understand what's going on with these documents to do something with it. But typically what we find is that they don't then operationalize that. So look into the workflows, orchestration, automation to turn it into a meaningful outcome for their customers. And that's a challenge that a lot of customers are facing. Gartner say that for every $1 spent on RPA, typically it's $7 to $9 spent on integration. So it often involves a number of different applications coming together in order to operationalize that. Automation Hero has gone one step further and brought out an end-to-end platform that is an enabler for that, but also beyond the first use case, if you like, allows you to get to the second, third, and fourth use case faster and really accelerate your journey towards hyper automation, which is continuous automation and continuous improvement. We'd love to spend more time than we have today talking about all the capabilities that underpin our particular platform. That's something I hope we get to do as a follow-up, either in the booth or maybe a follow-up meeting, who knows? But certainly, our ability to understand complex data from complex documentation, actually then be able to operationalize that, and also we're able to keep humans in the loop for quality assurance, and empowering the knowledge workers gives us a real differentiation. Our key focus here is about how are we bringing AI and execution closer and closer together to enable not just better use cases and enable better investment cases, for example, things like invoice processing, but also enable the next set of use cases that are coming. And how does that manifest itself? So we're seeing, for example, that companies are like this particular customer in Germany who has a huge amount of contracts and documents that need to get through from a finance procurement perspective.
Sorry, Mark, to interrupt you. I'm sorry, we are out of time, but of course, all the audience can engage with you in the startup booth. They can find you on the Expo symbol and continue the conversation there. And now we get ready for the next startup. That the next in line is Simon, that will introduce us to eBot 7, bringing AI to customer service. So welcome, Simon. Hi, Simon, the stage is yours. Can you hear us? Hello, Simon. I think you're muted. Can you maybe turn on your microphone?
I'm very sorry. Sorry, I was okay. I lost 20 seconds of my time.
That was the most said sentence in 2021. So
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you very much. And sorry for inconvenience. So yes, I wanna start my short presentation with a statement that is kind of obvious, but we tend to forget. So in business, as in life, and generally in our world, it's all built on and around conversations, right? So and COVID, I think, has really accelerated this trend that conversations go more and more digital, like as we are just now having conversations maybe later on in Hopin, right, in a digital way. And today's consumers, they increasingly use and also expect to interact with brands on a digital basis. And the result of this study that you can see here is also quite underpinning that. So it says that 83% of consumers said that they would browse or buy products in digital and messaging conversations. So that means they really trust those messaging options already, and they also expect them to be offered, which of course implies a challenge for businesses today, how to offer such conversations at scale and at value for their clients, right? And so it's also no surprise that there are predictions out there that say that in 3 to 5 years, over 85 or over 80% of all online customer interactions will be handled without human interaction, meaning there will be software and AI to some extent in play to help brands and companies to actually get into conversations at scale with their clients. And we from eBot 7, we actually have a tool developed exactly for that problem and exactly to solve that problem. And our cloud-based conversational AI platform is there to enable brands to leverage the latest AI technology and to get into conversations with their clients and with their customers and solve their problems. But not only that, but also provide a very nice and decent customer experience along the way with their customers, while keeping the efforts at a minimum or at an efficient rate in order to provide that service on a global scale, for example. So how do we do that? Just want to highlight 5 of the features that we have that make us we think a decent tool for that problem. The first is we follow the low-code paradigm. So our platform and building those conversations is very easy to do with fast implementation times. But we also have the skills and the partner network, for example, to help with more complex setups and more complex integrations or implementations. Second, we have a hybrid AI and agent model, which means our clients can all fully automate conversations, but they can also manage and define the handover to human agents and to the human in the loop to answer, for example, more complex questions. Third, of course, we are state-of-the-art AI, so we have a 50 people strong product team that is working on that day in, day out, and we have our own NLP algorithms. And we work based on or with smart integrations, both on the front and the back end. So no matter the channel, WhatsApp, Facebook, or a web chat can be implemented, as well as the third-party backend systems in the back or under the hood, like CRM, CMS systems, or shop systems. And final point is, of course, multilingual. So we enable our clients to start maybe with in one language on one website with one use case, but to scale from there to up to 70 languages. So just a set of the customers that are using our platform. And as you can see, it's different industries, right? It's a broad set of industries, broad set of use cases. HDI is using it for selling insurance, actually. Audi is using it for HR topics. Or Miele is providing services like customer service in over 10 languages and websites with our tool to help people questions around repair and maintenance services. So some KPIs, you see them here. Baudet has an increased interaction rate. HDI has a very strong automation rate, but also less support tickets, really saving costs, but also providing a better service. As you can see at Rewe, that manages a lot of the questions outside of opening hours. So we know that there are many chatbots out there that I think don't have the greatest experience today, but we really want to work on making those experiences smooth and valuable for customers, which we think works with smart personal assistants that are based on personalized experiences that are enabled by connected data. So we really know about the customer that is on the other end of the line, and the bot can really provide a more personalized and a more seamless experience to those clients and those users. And that's us, and we'd love to discuss more about that or show more of the examples that we have in the booth or in the follow-up later on.
Thank you very much, Simon. That was very insightful, and for our audience, remember to engage with eBot 7 in the startup booth. The next in line is i2X, helping sales and customer support agents to excel at their job. So let's welcome on stage Robbie. Hi, Robbie. Nice to see you again on stage.
Thank you very much, and super happy to be back here. So let's talk about i2X, and to explain what i2X is, I would like you to imagine the following situation. You're on a phone call or, well, during these days, on a video conference system with a customer or a prospect. And right in the second you hang up, you think to yourself, I forgot something really important. I forgot to raise a question. Maybe I said something that was not so good. Sounds familiar? Yeah, exactly. This is the issue we are solving with i2X. So i2X is, in a nutshell, a digital assistant that helps individuals to have better conversations. And our vision is augmented communication. What does it mean? That means that we bring the best of both worlds together. On one hand side, technology, and on the other hand side, to augment, to support people. So that's why I really like the pictures here on the right-hand side. So having really this augmented layer with best of both worlds. So what is i2X then? Well, i2X is a unique software solution that offers a real-time coaching and B, a post-call analytics. So the real-time coaching is our patented i2X assistant that really helps you to have a better conversation, to show, okay, now let's talk about this and that. And the post-call analytics is really share best practices. So what is the best way to sell your product, and what does your colleague said, and bring this together with insightful analytics. So i2X was founded by Michael Brehm, and I guess most of you or some of you might know Michael. Michael was one of the co-founders of StudiVZ, the biggest social media network here in Germany. And also, he's a serial entrepreneur, and he was always faced more or less with the same issue when he founded new companies and bring up new services and sales departments, how to really coach people, how to make them really aware of what is the latest product and what is the latest product feature, but also how to interact with people and how to coach them if you have remote teams. And during COVID, hybrid teams working everywhere. How do you do that? And this was basically the reason why he founded i2X. And so we are headquartered in Germany, in Berlin. So GDPR is a big thing, as you might know. So we are 100% GDPR compliant. How do we do that? I come to that in a second. And we are also super happy and proud that we already have big corporate customers such as Vodafone, Check24, or Avato Bertelsmann. And now let me lift the hood a little bit for you. We always say about, AI technology. How does it really work? And it's quite a simple example how i2X works. First of all, we have a patented engine that transcribes. So everyone knows what is Siri and Google Speech and Amazon Alexa. Well, they also transcribe. They take voice and transcribe it. But we do it differently. We are not using third-party solutions. Why? There are two reasons. First reason is you never know when you use a third party where the data is going through. And you remember, it's personal data, it's sensitive data. Because it's our own solution, we make sure everything stays in Germany within our solution. And the second part, also super important, is that we can change or we can train the AI. So it's important that you really understand the products. I mean, we have fancy product names. The AI need to understand it, then to analyze and improve in the next place. Everything is cloud-based and in real time. And last but not least, I prepared some success stories. I just want to point out one thing that I really like is the Vodafone case. Vodafone uses i2X when it comes to customer satisfaction calls. So you call Vodafone, you have questions to your invoice and etc. Vodafone uses i2X to have a better first call resolution rate, so customers happy. And then this is really important. They use i2X technology to upsell during a service call to really sell something to a customer which is happy. And last but not least, one call to action for you. If you want to know more, please reach out to me. Unfortunately, I missed the fun part, showing you and demoing you the live system, but hopefully we can do it later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robbie. Now, for our audience, remember you can meet the startup in the specific startup booth on the Expo symbol. And we are ready for Meet Anne from Flip, your employee app for the best-in-class operation workforce. Thank you, Anne. Nice to have you back with us. The stage is yours.
To be back, I hope you. And from Flip, the app.
We are maybe having some audio issues, and can you adjust more your microphone?
You can't hear me.
We are hearing a bit of echo.
Better now?
Not really. Let's try to go to the next startup, and maybe you can join us in 5 minutes. So now we'll go to the next startup, and the next in line is Hugo from Minimum. Minimum makes effective climate action so accessible for businesses. Thank you, Hugo. Now the stage is yours.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So what is Minimum and what do we do? Essentially, we are a corporate carbon footprinting and management platform. So don't have as much time today to spend on context as I would like to, but obviously we all know net zero, super important. It's no longer really something businesses can afford to not engage with. It's moved from a nice to have to essentially a compulsory. All the kind of macro winds are blowing in one direction, and aside from consumer pressure, there's a huge amount of regulation coming across the UK and Europe. The benefits of engaging with net zero are massive. As touched on, consumers are demanding it. It does tend to actually generate performance benefits, incentivizes innovation, and enables people to identify operational efficiencies. And fundamentally, as well as kind of avoiding being liable to any regulation, it is simply the best thing to do for the planet. And I think we kind of everyone here knows that. So there is a huge kind of make or break moment for businesses in terms of sustainability. There's a window of opportunity to position yourself as a first and fast mover and kind of glean all the benefits of having done so. You sort of don't get the credit if you do it in 10 years when everyone's had to do it anyway. And so you kind of really do mitigate all these potential downsides and glean all the benefits if you engage with it today. What does it take? One of the reasons it's really difficult, and I can't cover this in as much detail as I'd like, but the key thing that's difficult is basically Scope 3 emissions, which kind of sit outside of a business's direct control and line of sight, used to be reported on a voluntary basis because essentially they were too difficult, and that's now not really really sufficient. People are having to get to grips with those Scope 3 emissions, and they can no longer simply be ignored. Net zero is hard to do properly, and you'll all have seen many businesses coming out and making pledges, and that's very easy to do. You or I could go and do it tomorrow. Turning that into an actionable, executable plan is another step entirely. There's all kinds of different stages where it is possible for companies to fall down, and current solutions essentially rely on human consultants and not a lot else. Now, these do work and they function, but they are slow, manual, operate at an insufficiently regular cadence. And there is also fundamentally just a big backlog of demand for them. So there's actually a kind of, we're hearing from customers, a latency period of 4 to 6 months before they can get a consultant to come in and calculate a baseline carbon footprint and execute and kind of put in place a net zero plan for them. So it really lacks the kind of scalability of tech. And it's clear, given the urgency with which we need to act, tech needs to be brought in to be part of the solution and really help make carbon footprinting scalable for corporates. So what does Minimum do? We, at every stage of this process where it's difficult to kind of put in place a plan, we can take you through from start to finish, taking you from kind of a blank whiteboard all the way through to a fully sort of functioning and fully fledged and executable net zero plan. I'll just skip over that. And so how do we do that? What is it that's unique about Minimum? We actually sit at that intersection and that blend of having still world-class in-house sustainability experts who it's clear do very much still have a role to play, particularly for complex enterprises, but really leverage the best of technology that's out there to kind of lean on the best of both and really kind of bring out the best of each other. So how do we do it? First and foremost, Minimum is a tech platform, and what that means is it's agile, it's dynamic, it's digital. Once companies have their data plugged in to the platform, they can update it on an ongoing basis. The tool itself is essentially a smart survey that guides companies through the process. And where you have primary data, for instance, in the case of energy bills, that's great and can be plugged in. But it's an intelligent system that knows to fall back on benchmarks, using average data from analogous companies where that primary data is not available. Now, that may not apply to complex enterprises like yourself, but where the tech comes into its own is leveraging it and sending it out to your suppliers and supply chain who may have that access to that data less readily. And in light of that, they're able to kind of fall back on the benchmarks that the system knows to implement intelligently where there are gaps in the data. And what that means is it removes all the blockers from getting a complex enterprise up and running with a baseline carbon footprint that covers the full gamut of scopes 1 to 3, and can really get you up and running in a question of days and weeks rather than months as current solutions take.
Thank you so much, Hugo. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but these 5 minutes literally flied. And
no
thank you for your speech. And for the audience, remember that if you want further interact with Minimum, you can join the startup in the startup booth in the Expo Symbol. And now it's time to welcome another great startup. Let's welcome on stage Ingo from Mira, bringing security to the digital infrastructure of companies and governmental agencies. Welcome, Ingo. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. I am going to make you familiar with Mira Security. What do we do? What type of clients do we serve? Why do clients come to us? Why do they like to stay with us? So let's jump in. And what do we do? So Mira is a security as a service platform. As those, we are providing this SaaS service, but it's special because what we do is specially designed to fulfill certain needs for enterprises which are in regulated markets, which are in special industries. And I come to that in a second. Before I jump into the verticals, and fintech is one of those, let's look into what's wrapped into the security as a service platform. It actually, you can consider this as an innovative web and API protection and performance service. And it consists of 4 key elements. And those elements are a DDoS protection service. It's a web application firewall. It comes with a very sophisticated bot management and bot analytics. Remember, up to 50–70% of all traffic comes from bot in these days. And it's all wrapped into our global content distribution network. So one thing I'd like to point out is that everything we provide is developed in-house. So besides running the security as a service platform, we are also a technology manufacturer. So now let's look at the industries I've spoken about. Of course we serve the German federal government. We serve the Munich Security Conference. So public is a big business. It's a special business. It can be complicated. But we want to talk a little bit more about finance and fintechs. So you can see some of the brands we are serving. If you are a provider in one of those services, in this fintech service, and you consider your banking, your financing application and services, they need to be protected against DDoS attacks, and this is important to you. And it might be considered as an outsourcing following EBA guidelines. It's you're expecting a 44er Sonderprüfung. You just want to be compliant with regulations of European Central Bank and BaFin, for example. Then actually Mira is the place to go to. Now, talking about regulated markets, this is the outside view. So let's focus on the inside view. Nearly all of our clients are telling us that there are 3 core values where everything what we do for them derive from. And those 3 core values I've just broken down for you. So let's look at it. So it's on the one hand side, of course, it's security. Mira security. What else would you expect? So it's DDoS protection. We've spoken about that already. And the benefit is a constantly available web service. This is important in these days. And it's real-time protection. You can't prepare really. You do not know when a DOS attack is coming. So a real-time protection is absolutely key. That's number one. But protection, security without performance in these days, it doesn't work. End consumers, digital natives, they expect performance, and they are right. So this is what we are enabling with our global CDN and load balancing. We do not have spinning disks. We do not have SSD. Everything on our side is built into the RAM caching. And of course, it's a maximum availability, fast page load times, etc. This is important. So those two, very important. But when it comes to regulated markets, there's actually one more point, which is very tricky. And it's let's say, Myra's superpower. That's the compliance. So, and you can see also from the picture here, it's there's more squeezed into it. It's BSI, ISO certification. It's PCI. We are not compliant. We are certified. It's GDPR. We've heard this from other pitches already. If you are following MRISC 89 BAIT, the last amendment number 6 last August from the BaFin, that's important to you, and the benefits you see here. Secure investment through legal certainty, or the structure of the contracts we are bringing. That's actually this combination is what we are seeing as 3 use cases. We are fulfilling with a security as a service platform from Myra, and summing up with the USPs: security, compliance, performance from one source, super important. As I've mentioned in the very beginning, we are a technology vendor. We are using our own technology to provide that platform, but because of that, we can even build tailor-made solutions. We are a long-year expert, long-time industry expertise in banking and finance in other industries.
Thank you very much, Ingo.
Cybersecurity made in Germany. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And if for the audience, if you want to further engage with Ingo and Myra Securities, you can join the startup in the startup booth. But now stay with us as we have Freak from StriveCloud.io, the go-to gamification solution for modern enterprises.
Hello, my name is Freek from StriveCloud, a scalable gamification technology company for customer-centric companies. So it's 2022, right? And people are trading cryptos, sitting on the toilet from their mobiles. Zalando is doing more turnover through their mobile app than through their website. So, you'd think that companies that are B2C, or even companies that are B2B, to their employees, would know how to build applications and platforms that engage people in a better way, because it's valuable. Well, what if I told you that still, after every install of an application, on average 70% churns within 3 months and is completely dead, never to return to the platform? So there are still huge gains to be won through improving the churn rates. So gamification has proven to really help reducing those churn rates by motivating people. And it's not just an industry-specific thing. What we see is that banks like AXA are looking at gamification to better trigger the youth, for example. Even food retail like Colruyt in Belgium, a client of ours that sees that they can see to onboard more people, or even with health applications, they rely heavily on gamification because they try to motivate people to be healthier, and they see only an average retention of 3 months. So we rely heavily with our technology on the psychology of gamification. And to give you a very brief introduction of what this is, gamification is actually the application, so it's not a game itself, but the application of game-like elements into the user experience to motivate and change people's behavior. So it's more about digital behavioral change. To get you introduced with some concrete examples, you have badges, challenges, lotteries, in-app messages, point collection, notifications that are tailored to what people are doing, and then also visual leveling systems and leaderboards, just to give you some examples. So very easy to just explain something complex quite easily. Users can collect points, they can use them to claim certain rewards in different kinds of ways, they can check and see their progress on what they're doing, and then receive unique notifications based on their behavior, so very specific. So how it works is that we're going to change data points from the applications that we work with. We're going to link them to our gamification system and then seamlessly visualize them in their application. So people will have reached certain key milestone behaviors to really go and start using the app as they want to really go and stimulate relevant usage. It's not so very special to go and create leaderboards, but actually our unique way of working together with clients makes all the pitfalls that gamification has way less risky. So step one, we use all our expertise to go into gamification workshops to define key business KPIs and define which gamification mechanics we should implement and in how many phases we should. Then step two, with our technology, which is an off-the-shelf, very broad SaaS technology, we make the implementation as low barrier as possible. And then step three, we make the iteration of this whole process very low barrier and low code, so you don't need to go back to your development teams all the time to try out new things or improve the gamification system. In less than 2 years, we've gained international ground with clients in more than 7 countries and growing. Now we're 2.5 and we're already in 12 countries, but our designer didn't have time, sadly, to go and color in some more graphics for today. So that's, but we're growing really fast, and we're also having big parties like, for example, AB InBev, KPN, and other big parties as our clients. So our revenue model, or how it works, is with licenses. You have a starter license up until enterprise. You can have, if you have questions about this, you can always contact me. Our team also here, we started out with just 3 founders. This expanded quite fast after 2 years, completely bootstrapped up until 9 to 10 people FTE, and now we're already at 18 people FTE, just by the growth of our company, completely self-funded. So if you have any questions, I'm always willing to answer them. Please contact me, write this down, or join me in the booth afterwards if you want to have a chat. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Frick. And for our friends on hoping, yes, remember you can join the startup in the dedicated startup booth on the Expo symbol. Next up, we have Emmanuel from Weaver, providing a scalable platform that lets any company add banking to their services via APIs quickly and at low cost. Welcome, Emmanuel. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Weaver is an embedded finance provider, and we empower any digital business platform marketplace to become a fintech. But first, let me tell you why companies should think about this. By 2024, 63% or $5.2 trillion of the world's digital payments will come from service sectors like health, education, and real estate. Today, digital applications deliver us food or let us book rides. But when it comes to money, the only focus is on the checkout process. With embedded finance, they could offer many more products for the benefits of their users, supply chain, and ecosystem. Embedded finance sounds great, but it's really hard in practice. And that's where we come in. The main problems that a typical non-fintech is facing when building banking products with a traditional banking as a service company are likely to be around sort of 3 main areas. It's about securing the right banking providers, and that is a very complex and time-consuming task. It's about building secure financial systems, which is really complex. And even though you can use the license of your banking partner, you still have to take on big commitments on compliance. These challenges often translate to high setup costs. We estimate those to be around the $250K USD mark, and at least 9 months of development efforts before the first live transactions can happen. It's a real barrier when you don't have any fintech expertise. With Weaver, we enable any digital business to invisibly embed financial services into their product or service as easily as they can build checkout. Our customer, Ben, who is featured on this slide, is an employee benefit provider in the UK that needed to launch a debit card for its corporate customers. With our platform, Ben was able to start processing live transactions in just 5 weeks after contract signing at a fraction of the cost. The typical journey for an innovator looks like this. It's about configuring their Weaver plugin via our portal, integrating the plugin into their application, and turning on the financial services with our structured go-live process. Weaver financial plugins make it simple and fast to embed financial services into applications. Depending on the payment flows you would like to support, Weaver is offering the right financial plugins. Our financial plugins are powered by a comprehensive range of banking and payments capabilities. Of course, this includes standard banking products such as cards and IBANs, but what makes us outstanding are our additional tools, such as a charging engine to allow you to set up how you want to charge your customers, simulators to test transactions and customer behavior interactively, and data tools and dashboards to see what's happening in your solution in real time. Together, these tools make creating and testing your solution much easier and much faster than any other solution in the market. Don't take our word for that. Since our launch in January last year, Weaver has signed up dozens of innovators, shaping the future of work, wellness, education, and many more industry segments. Look at the first line of our innovators logo. It highlights our existing customers in the German markets, in the German-speaking market, for example. Why did they choose us? Mostly because of these 3 reasons. Simplicity. They do not have banking experts in their team and do not want to build a banking unit. Time to market. And very importantly, built-in compliance. Every company that offers financial services needs to comply with regulatory requirements. Our solution enables us to take care of compliance and allows our innovators to focus on their core product. Weaver's purpose is to deliver more value from financial services. We are achieving this by making it easy for innovators to deliver better financial products for their customers. It's as simple as building checkout. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And for our friends on Hoping, remember you can now engage with Weaver in the dedicated startup booth. Now, last but not least, we have Anne from Flip, your employee app for the best-in-class operation workforce. Hello, Han. It's great to have you here.
Hi. I hope you can hear me this time.
Yes, perfectly. The stage is yours.
Okay, that's awesome news. Okay, great. So yes, my name's Anne. I'm head of growth and marketing at Flip, and we're the app empowering deskless work. And so I believe that most of you are sitting comfortably in front of your computers right now, using your smartphones, and are super well used to using any types of digital tools. But to talk about Flip and what we are doing, we really have to change perspectives. And I want to talk today about those workers that are always muted. And the people that are always muted are the ones that work on shop floors. Those are the employees that work in retail and in the shops, the guys that work in logistics, people that work in hospitals, etc. So really the deskless workforce, the frontline workers. And they are always muted. That is how we say. So they're disconnected from their companies. And actually, it's 80% of global workforce that is deskless and disconnected. This makes 2.7 billion people that are trapped in an offline-only work environment. And for them, basic things become really difficult. So think about vertical one-to-many communication. So how do you inform people and employees and tell them that the factories are not going to be open tomorrow? That was one case that we saw during COVID. How do you change shifts and ask your colleagues to cover your shifts? And actually also, how do you ask your colleague that works in the warehouse to bring out a piece or to get a part for the client? So the way it works today for deskless workers is that they still very much rely on pen and paper. They rely on word of mouth or on the use of private messengers, such as, I don't know, WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. Those guys, they have never opened an email or wrote an official email. And I want to illustrate this a little bit more with the more concrete example. And let's take Jennifer. Jennifer is a retail employee, and in her daily work, she doesn't have a company smartphone, so she used her own smartphone, and has like a rather limited tech skills when it comes to using tools that we are all very much used to, like Microsoft tools, etc. For her, that is all something very difficult. In communication with others, she uses social media tools also to communicate with her colleagues. And in her work environment on the shop floor, she also struggles with bad reception. So for her, it's really not easy to be in touch with her colleagues and to work with the colleagues. And so what we see is that for Jennifer, she thinks that there's a two-split company world where on the one hand side, you have the colleagues that work in the office and kind of come up with new ideas, new processes and tools. And on the other hand side, there's she herself that is working on the shop floor, trying to implement new tools and services and not having the right ways how to do so. And well, we said this is not how things should be, and this is why we created our app, and we created a solution that users love. So for the first time, they really want to interact with their company, as they can access the app within seconds and be in touch with their company. For managers, they finally have a tool to reach their shop floor employees, to reach the guys on the shop floor. And lastly, also IT likes the app because it's very easy to implement and to roll out. And with that being said, this is kind of like our app. And so this could be your app in essence. So we bring the entire company into one app, and that is mobile first. And how it works is that you will have your own company logo, your own brand on the smartphone of your employees, and they instantly know where to click when they want to access company information. You as the employer can reach all employees easily via push notifications. You're able to share top-down information and make it accessible to everyone at any time. And
thank you very much, Anne. Okay, sorry to interrupt you, but the time has expired, but it was very great pitch. And for the audience watching us and hoping, remember, you can engage with Anne and Flip up on the dedicated startup booth in the Expo symbol. And now is the time that everybody was waiting for. It's time to vote for your favorite pitch. You heard 9 amazing pitches, but which one was the best? We'll give you now 1 minute to express your preference before announcing our winner. Great, guys. And so remember, as you have just seen, we have our Munich Health Expo happening on February the 1st to February the 3rd. And if you're passionate about corporate innovation, you cannot lose this event. So on the Munich Expo, we have plus 25 startups participating and we will talk about tech and innovation in the health sector. But now it's time to announce our winner. Let's wait another few seconds. The polls are coming up. We see we are collecting votes and the stats are changing. Guys, this is your very, very last chance to express your preference. Do we have a winner? And the name is I2X is the winner of our startup pitching competition. Congratulations to Robbie from I2X. Now, the winner will be the first participant at the exclusive mentorship session with Plug and Play, which will kick off the first week of February. And congratulations, Robbie.
During the pandemic, many firms had to put up new options for enabling remote work, having to deal with new security issues and infrastructure challenges. Meanwhile, cybersecurity threats are on constant rise, and firms need to put new measures in place to keep their data secure. Today with us, we have great cybersecurity experts that will share with us some insights. So please welcome on the following panel, Frank Piotrkę, SVP of Revenue and Growth at SoSafe, the cybersecurity awareness training platform, which has just secured the impressive 73 million round. Ingo Lala, Vice President of Sales at Myla Security, cybersecurity as a service platform, protecting, among others, German federal government. Gianluca Pometto, Group Chief Security Officer at UniCredit, our corporate partner. Sergei Epp, Chief Security Officer, Central Europe at Palo Alto Networks. And the moderator of the panel, Joachim Fritschi, Group Chief Information Security Officer at GLS. Hi, everyone. I hope you are doing great and you enjoyed the rest of the panels. Joachim, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you to my colleagues, Frank, Ingo, Gianluca, and Sergey for joining me today for this very interesting panel to discuss the future of cybersecurity. I mean, we had a lot of changes over the last 2 years during the pandemic. We've seen an accelerated digital transformation, a lot of changes in our internal networks, people working from home, increasing threats, a lot of new attacks. Gianluca, what do you think is the next big thing? What are the most important measures to be implementing right now to tackle these challenges?
So thanks, Joaquin. I think you are touching a very new normal point, let me say, because remote working is something that, especially in Europe, we start dealing with in the last 2 years, and it let us think out of the box also the way how we are protecting our workforce, our colleagues, our customers. In terms of what is bringing to us in definitely an enlargement of a surface attack, meaning that we need to protect more on what we were used before, let me say, the extension of remote working. And of course, this trigger a lot of potential additional threat regarding social engineering technique that can leverage a new field, new surface, new way to reach what is most important for us, especially, for example, for banks, the information of our employee, of our customers, first of all. And this is really challenging a lot and let us to think of a new way to protect this thing, like applying new techniques or just refurbish old techniques that are always working, like layer security or talking about zero trust. I'm looking also to Sergey. I think he knows very well how we are talking about. But I think that this is a real challenge that direct us to understand that we are never done. Every day we have something new to challenge, and we need to make sure that we are flexible enough to identify the security control that protect us and our customer, but enable the business to keep working and to keep find new solution to be secure, but allow we embrace new normal like remote working or mobile channel, IoT, etc. So I think that this is a real challenge to find this new normal, what we were used to protect before, to protect with the same level, enabling more and more adaptive solution to kick in.
Okay. You already mentioned Sergey, and I think you've already thrown down the ball for him. Sergey, regarding the solutions to tackle these issues, what do you think is the best approach?
Right. So you're asking a provider, right? Yeah, I think the picture Gianluca is painting is very true, right? I mean, the cybersecurity industry is known for for creating a lot of fear, but we see already since decades that organizations out there fighting multiple dimensions of complexity, right? And Gianluca mentioned some of them. Like, first of all, we're fighting the complexity of digitalization. We are constantly introducing more and more new technology surfaces, new tech environments with remote work, cloud, IT. On the other hand, the threat actors are evolving very, very fast, right? And introducing constantly as well new attack vectors, and also attacking the attack surfaces which they are not attacked so far. And on the other hand as well, we are sort of just lacking talent, and very often as an organization, even the capability to get transparency and to understand what options are required to secure my organization. I mean, if you just ask simply a CEO today, who can secure your organization, very often the answer will be, I don't know, right? Or there will be multiple companies who are required to do that. And I think that's exactly the challenge we're facing today. And on the other hand, I think more and more companies, not just in the finance industry, but across the bank, are recognizing that in the digital age, cybersecurity is often in between, like being, on the other hand, a digital champion, on the other hand, close to being extincted, or close to be, to extinction, just because there's another hack happening or whatever. And I think one example I would just like to mention, the cyber insurance case, where the cyber insurance had to pay now for Merck 1 to 2 billion, in losses which Merck made just because of a ransomware attack, shows again that this problem is quite significant, right? And we have just to understand from a solution point of view as well, how to simplify and to tackle the problem in a way that it supports our business. So I would not, talk about products or services, but the question is just to understand really how do I reduce systematic threats, systematic risks in my organization, right? So risks which can just crash my business from one day to another. And Gianluca mentioned zero trust as a concept towards that, which is sort of like a marketing hype for cybersecurity, and which dictates to introduce and implement cybersecurity everywhere. But it, I think, brings cybersecurity to a different level, which we didn't have really before. Not covering cybersecurity operation level, but really making it a broad topic.
I think it really brings it out from the infrastructure layer, from the firewall people and the antivirus guys, back to the application layer, to the business layer, but also to the employees. And I think the employee angle is also very important. So Frank, what are your thoughts about this? So how important are the employees in that security concept?
Joachim, thanks. Obviously, also here the opinion of the vendor is maybe slightly biased, but we see obviously the huge trend towards cybersecurity awareness, because all what you just said is obviously true, but it's only so good as sort of the employees build a little bit more resilience towards these attacks. I mean, we see the big trends with social engineering, also coordinating nowadays actually across company borders, right? So we see this is supply chains getting attacked, connected companies getting attacked. How can you sort of build just within sort of your own IT infrastructure defenses against that? I think, and that's sort of a little bit our take, obviously, you need to build the resilience in the company, but how do you do that, right? So I think we've tried it a long time with policies and with telling people how to act, but not really helping them to build that resilience and what it means, and to educate really sort of also the weak parts on the in the organization that usually are forgotten. I think we need to be better here. We need to sort of to think about all our employees. There could be sort of an entry for attacks and build their strengths against that. I think that's what we see, and that's what we talk about with many companies nowadays. How can we build up this strength and this resilience in the workforce beside of policies and sort of the finger that we tell them how to sort of act, but how is it maybe even at some stage even fun and entertaining how to sort of build that and get them around the topic to really in the point when the attack happens to act the right way.
I think it's really awareness is one thing to label it. I think it's really changing the culture of the business, making sure that cybersecurity is part throughout the company, through all levels. And I think right now it's also being recognized more and more on the regulatory level that this is so important, and we're getting a lot of pressure to enforce a lot of legal requirements, regulation, etc. So Ingo, what are your thoughts on this matter? How do you think are we going to tackle these issues in the future?
That's actually the counterpart. We've spoken about enterprises. We've spoken about employees. Now in regulated markets, we've touched finance and banking as a topic also. That's the counterpart. But same as we are seeing a demand to step up, Sergey mentioned, it's difficult to find the resources. Yeah? It's a complex, cybersecurity is a complex topic. And guess what? It's getting more complex every day. Threats are getting bigger, frequencies are getting higher. Then there is suddenly a regulation, required to touch those topics. It's also a big challenge for, if we stick to the finance and banking in Europe, it's a big topic for European Central Bank here in Germany, for the BaFin or for the FINMA in Switzerland or whatsoever. So they also have to step up here. And what I think, what we see also is in finance, it's one thing. There is the BaFin, but there are also other regulating institutions in Germany, for example, the BSI. Sometimes there are maybe then overlapping. It's never seamlessly, right? So there is maybe an overlap. What if you are the CISO inside a company? Which way do you go? You do not get hard requirements. You get from requests like industry best practice. You have to interpret what to do. It's not an easy thing. And what we see is there is truly a big effort on the regulation side, also on the company side. It will take to grow together, but I'm not sure if it was Gianluca or Sergey. You've mentioned it already. It's an ongoing demand. It's a dynamic situation. It's nothing like, so we are not now going to implement our next level for cybersecurity and then we are done. Once you are ready, you are up for the next level. And this is both on the regulation side as for the vendor, as for the corporation, but also for the employee, and last not least, for us as consumers, as human beings.
So do you feel that the compliance aspects of regulation is helping security, or is it actually, let's say, taking away resources from actually securing the business? Do you see an inherent conflict there, or is it beneficial?
Okay, I think at the end it is beneficial because we've seen some big issues. Just to mention Wirecard, right, and all the impact and all the discussions. I'm not pointing fingers to anyone, but there was obviously something going on all different sides. So at the end, regulation necessary? Absolutely yes. It's necessary in those markets. What we can see sometimes is nevertheless there are those two scenarios. On the one hand side, it's the cyber threat. It's the next attack. You never know when it's coming. On the other hand, there's the regulation. And there might be sometimes a tendency where companies look at the cyber security and the demands from a regulation perspective, and it's then to fulfill regulation requirements, and that's actually the motivation. Although those regulations obviously are there because of the cyber threat. So what we see sometimes is a little bit of a tendency. We have to follow regulations. This is the reason why we do it, although it should be the other way around, maybe.
So perhaps just one comment on this one as well. I think there's a challenge sometimes, especially in the finance industry, having a background there for about 15 years, right? That regulation compliance is definitely very, very helpful because it helps to bring the cybersecurity level to a certain level, right?
Yeah.
If the regulation is up to date, and we understand typically it has like a time span of 5 to 10 years, where it's lacking behind the current security measures. So I think what's really important is to understand how we apply regulation and how as well specific companies are acting with it. Just to give you an example, I often see from some customers providing us a list of literally like hundreds of different requirements which we were supposed to fulfill as a security vendor. And in the end, if you ask them where's it coming from, then you would find out they would hire a consultant who would put this together for about 2 months, trying to change the wording from some standard regulations like ISO 27K and so on, which is creating more overhead, like for both sides. And I think therefore, creating more simplicity in the regulatory world would definitely help, right? And to make regulations as well more adaptive. I think there are some, good lessons learned from the financial world, but also bad lessons learned, because if you just ask a bank in terms of cyber regulations, there's a lot to fulfill, right? And I think there's definitely a bit of homework we have to do in this industry just to simplify. While in other industries, a simple regulation like SOC 2.0 or ISO 27K will already create a lot of advantage just to create a basic cyber hygiene.
Just to underline what you just said, Sergey. If we are working in a standard cybersecurity scenario, there is a contract terms and conditions period. If we have to provide same service, we as a vendor in the finance industry, and we are talking about an outsourcing following EBA guidelines, we have actually 9 different documents which we provide and which we have to put together simply because of those requirements. This underlines definitely the additional effort, although the service behind is similar, but it's a very sensitive market, of course, and it requires a lot of proof and to follow those regulations. There is definitely a high additional effort. Will it be streamlined at some point? Maybe it will. At the moment, I can't see that. I mean, it's just EBA guidelines have been provided the last amendment in 2019. It took BaFin up to August 2021 last year to actually build the new MRISC and BAIT against those EBA guidelines which came up in 2019. So we now playing catch up here, and we are now about to implement those. So is it going to be reduced at some point? I don't see that.
But I'd still say it accelerates. I mean, the regulations that we see. You mentioned BAIT. You could say VAIT. Likewise, you can see TZEX. I mean, I'm with Sergey. Most of the stuff is rooted in the ISO regulation somewhere, right? And they adapt it to the different verticals at some stage. But what we see, for example, also in Germany with the Hospital Care Act, is that it really accelerates investments into the right direction. Obviously, sort of when we only see the awareness topic, but it accelerates, it starts discussions about a topic that hasn't been there before because of the regulation, right? So I think the regulations are a good facilitator for increased investments and also sort of speed into the right direction.
Yeah, with the hospitals, it's you also have to mention that because of that Hospital Care Act, 15% of all fundings in digital projects, they have to be invested into cybersecurity.
Correct. Otherwise, you don't get the funding.
Yeah, but it's the question there then remains what is going to happen afterwards once the funding is eaten up, and that's actually the big thing on the health side.
And if we look back at the SolarWinds case, the question is always having compliance on paper and checklists and all that. How effective is that actually? So the whole topic of third-party risk, I think, with the SolarWinds case has shown that, let's say, the compliance type of security has its challenges. Let's put it like this. So what are your thoughts on that? Putting it out here.
So, if I may, just to add a couple of additional thoughts, and then I will go back to a third party, because I think it's one of the other evergreen at this stage. Regarding regulation, I think they help on their own way, but they cannot be the solution overall, even if we need to be compliant with, of course. For example, third parties, regulators are digging a lot on that field, and we are seeing, especially when we talk huge organization, leverage a lot of third parties. So you need all the field, your protection to make sure that you have clear segregation, awareness that you need to bring also to third party, because they need to deal with your understanding of security, as well as understanding how you need to improve your contracts to deal also with the cybersecurity topic. And I think that as of today, I agree that most organizations apply what Sergey was saying before, the mother of all the framework that is a collection of NIST, ISO 27 key, and so on. So it's like most of the ingredients you put in is better you get in terms of getting better protection, but on the contrary, you just add layer of complexity, and as Ingo was saying, is basically very difficult then to manage. And probably I think then for third party come the questionnaire approach. So you let the third party or a supplier to fill never-ending questionnaire to try to get an assessment of their risk related to cybersecurity. And then when you need to translate real risk, technical risk, or technology risk, is very, very hard to get there. And probably if you are having a questionnaire of hundreds of questions, you just scratch the surface of a potential risk of the third party you are dealing with. I think is the real solution to be cracked, let me say, because I don't think yet we found a real way to manage the third-party risk overall, especially in the cybersecurity way. Because what I learned, especially in my experience, on cybersecurity, you need to be ready to face the unexpected. Because at the end of the day, very quickly you can find yourself in a situation that is very hard to manage. And especially when it turns to be impacting also a third party that indirectly turn to you, is very, very difficult, elevated at a potential level of risk that you are not able to control, because when you have a third party, maybe outsource it to another third party, the complexity is very, very extensively never ending. And the best approach is to be consistent, standardize, I would say, what you are looking for, and look at something that can be measurable in terms of risk. Easy to say, very hard to do, but I think is the only way to get into this third-party risk management, especially when you deal with cyber risk. But guys, let me know also what are your thoughts on that.
there's a good metaphor, right? I think we're here on a startup event, and to you quote, "Face the unexpected." I think there's a good analogy to the startup world. There's always a plan until you get hit in the face, right? And I think this is like a day-by-day job for CISO, simply because you have to be adaptive, right? And just to like continue on this certification aspect. In the supply chain aspect, there's so many dependencies now in our world. One small $1 IoT device in your network can be connected to your, to your HSM or to any other critical service in your network, and just be the entry point for the hackers coming from somewhere external and really bringing down your entire environment. So I think all the scenarios you cannot really predict. It's very, very hard to predict that. And I think what SolarWinds, created or pushed as a new level of conversation, generally in the cybersecurity community, is the way how do we create more transparency around our supply chain, right? And Gianluca was sort of nailing into that already. How do you really understand how the suppliers, like for instance, we as Palo Alto Networks, Marvel Security, SoulSafe, how are they treating their own security, right? And I think getting this visibility will provide you more confidence as well to understand, yes, my data is potentially secure, or allowing them to access my network is okay because they have the same type of standard. And I think this requires two things. This requires, first of all, that we develop common standards, and there already are plenty of standards like SOC 2.0, TSAX, and so on. And second is that we develop the standards more towards being machine readable or machine manageable. And if you look at Europe, I think we are very focused on ISMS frameworks like ISO 27K, or TSAX, which are very hard to automate, versus US providing a SOC 2 type of report. And so if you ask, for instance, us as a vendor to provide it to you, we'll provide you a report for every service over 60, 70 pages where we describe how we run our security operations, right? So there's a lot of transparency into that. I think this is something we're going to see more and more. Just sort of going back as well to zero trust, not trusting your suppliers, right? And trying to get and ask for more transparency and verifying your suppliers on a continuous basis.
There's actually one point I would like to add or combine here. I fully subscribe to what you say. And just trying to bring together, we've spoken about regulations and this 100, 200 line item list you're getting then because a consultant or maybe a regulator has provided that. That's point number one. What we typically have is once we start working with clients, we have our, let's say, own questionnaire. And that actually goes to level 3, 4, 5. It goes much deeper because the threat we see and the analysis we do goes so much deeper technology-wise than what any EBA guideline or BaFin MR risk 89 can do. And that's the transparency we need. And that's also then the standards we need to have, that there is a common layer of protection. But this is actually now a question I can't answer, but I see this gap that there is this demand. We do that on a one-to-one basis. Everybody is doing that. Palo Alto is doing that with the clients, but it's not common standard yet.
So I think you should open source that, right? So I think we should really openly talk about that and create this next level of more detailed type of requirements, because there are standards like CIS, for instance, right, in the US, machine readable standards, right? And they're potentially very focused on certain aspects. So perhaps we need something like that for Europe and for the financial world and some other industries.
Yeah, I think the idea of more collaboration between the companies on security, exchanging information, just thinking back a couple of weeks regarding Log4j, I think the amount of questions and questionnaires that were being sent between companies were just crazy. So let's say optimizing that could definitely be one of the topics to also alleviate some of the challenges we are facing regarding personnel, staffing, cybersecurity skill gap, if you want to call it like that.
Yeah, if I heard open source, my mind literally blow up against Log4j, and I still thinking all the patch that were coming out, also the supply chain level of the delivery of that maybe is something that is interesting. And I was thinking last week, what am I doing here? Because I'm just applying patches, so I become something related to IT operation. I think that another really interesting topic is how we are ensuring that security is keeping up with evolution, with the threats, avoiding the pitfall to fall only on making security operation like IT, etc. Because I think that the ingredients behind cybersecurity are multiple, and starting from awareness. I'm looking at Frank, what we were saying before. The weakest part at the end of the day is between the chair and the keyboard. I look at Sergey, and of course, I love the evolution technology that can help us to simplify things, get visibility. I agree 100%, as well as capability to apply patches in seconds is another topic that is helping us on the way to face 0 day. That is probably something that will be with us for a long time going forward, like Log4j. So I think that all these ingredients make us capable to get to the root of how we are protecting, and of course, regulation are part of it, Ingo, so no doubt. And the right approach is to find a balance and find the right framework that can support that as well. But again, let me know what you think, and what is your favorite ingredients as well.
I think, Gianluca, those were perfect closing words already for our panel. I think we're almost close to the end, and I think key is really striking the right balance between people, processes, and technology. And I think only in that combination and finding the right mix will get us forward in security and tackling all the threats that are coming up.
Thank you to our cybersecurity experts. Guys, it was great to have you here. Hope you enjoyed the discussion. Please remember that you can join our panelists in the expo section of Hopin. So if you want to learn more about cybersecurity, get some more insights from the market, please feel free to do so.
That's great. So now we are ready for the next panel. And as we have heard at the beginning of the day, AI plays a key role in the digital transformation of many industries. Large and small companies alike are automating their business processing using AI. So now we'll have the opportunity to learn more from our panelists. And we have now on stage Alex Posternak, Chief Financial and Investment Officer at MTS AI Center, Sam Edge, EMEA Head Fintech Business Development, Startups and Venture Capital at Amazon Web Services, Mark Stripp, Vice President of Sales, EMEA at Automation Era, Intelligent Automating Business Processes with the Power of RPA and AI. And the panel will be moderated by Michael Burns, Director AI and Fintech Leader at PwC. Welcome to everybody. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Jens. Welcome. Great to have you all on board from this. I'm personally really excited to exchange views on AI across Europe. Now, as you've probably seen fresh off the press, it was just yesterday that the EU lead committees launched their joint work on the first legal AI Act. So clearly, in terms of Europe, we've got some catching up to do. The US and China are way ahead of us at the moment. So with this in mind, I'd like to get to the first question, which is, tell us a bit more about your company and how it helps clients to achieve more in machine learning and AI, how to take them on this journey. Mark, would you like to make a start on this?
Great, thank you, Michael, and thank you everyone for having us today. So yes, so I guess on the note of playing catch up, we really are moving into a new class in automation. So thinking about traditional vendors in the RPA space, intelligent document processing, we're really reaching that next point of maturity where how do we use artificial intelligence and even going further into deep learning capabilities to actually get a better contextual understanding of what's going on in the business, tapping into the unstructured and semi-unstructured data to reveal new insights that you can turn into meaningful outcomes. And I think we're at the point now, certainly us as coming into the market, we see ourselves having that capability, being AI native, to look at semi-unstructured data to unlock that new potential. And even for existing use cases that have been tried and tested, there are new ways of doing the same thing to unlock further value. I think typically, some of the RPA related projects tended to hit a wall in terms of what they could do that was still cost effective, bearing in mind the investment case versus doing it manually in the first place. Often there was constraints in terms of the services, the overhead, etc., and so on. So, how do we make it so automation, the vision around automation is truly realized? And I think that's where we're maturing towards from RPA, intelligent automation, and ultimately hyper automation as well.
That's great insights, Mark. Thank you for this. So maybe over to Sam. How does AWS enable customers to embed their AI and machine learning into the product? And maybe particularly with your focus on fintech, you could also give us some examples from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's slightly different to Mark. We, as a cloud provider, we consider the infrastructure level. We provide the services and the tools to enable companies to bring AI machine learning into their products and services. And we work with organizations of all shapes and sizes, including large enterprises, global financial service institutions, governments, SMEs, startups, kind of you name it. And while many companies have started to use machine learning, I think it's still being invented and reinvented over time. Now, as you mentioned, I work with startups, I work with fintechs, and for them, AI machine learning is a strategic technology, and AWS is an enabler for them to use these technologies. And we're kind of conscious that fintechs and other companies, they come in again all shapes and sizes, as I mentioned earlier. And there are different factors that influence how they use these technologies, to what extent, such as the maturity of the company, the skills available, the extent to which AI machine learning is kind of core to their business, and the use case they're solving and the kind of level of complexity involved with that. So when we think about AI machine learning, we look at it in kind of three layers of the stack to try to support the different needs of customers. So at the very bottom layer, we have what we call kind of the framework level, and this is for frameworks and infrastructure, really for machine learning experts and practitioners, such as advanced developers, data scientists, who are kind of comfortable building, tuning, training, deploying, and managing models themselves, and working at that framework level. So really for kind of expert practitioners. And then in the middle layer of our three-layer stack, these are machine learning services that are for kind of more everyday data scientists and developers, because we believe that if machine learning is going to be as expensive as it really should be, we need to make it more accessible to people who are not just practitioners in this space, because there are still very few experts out there. So that's why we built Amazon SageMaker, a fully managed service that removes a lot of this heavy lifting and enables everyday developers and data scientists to bring these services into their products and solutions. And we have a lot of customer examples in the space in financial services. Companies like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are using Amazon SageMaker. In fintech, we have organizations like Zopa in the UK and Tink in the Nordics. And just very, very quickly to finish it off, at the very top of our stack, we have AI services that mimic human cognition. And these are for customers that don't want to have to build their own machine learning models, but do want to integrate and incorporate AI into their applications without having to build and train learning algorithms. So we have this three-layered approach, and I think having this approach enables us to help customers to embed AI machine learning, depending on their use case and their specific needs.
So it's an interesting approach in terms of different maturity levels, but also making it accessible. And in some ways, sounds like a bit democratizing the access to it. It's fascinating. So maybe then, from your perspective, Alex, how do you approach this subject? How do you enable customers, and what do you see across your portfolio of investments in that area?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So regarding these applications, so we have a number of companies in the portfolio of the VC fund and the acceleration program. So different companies with different maturity stage. And we have some maturity, very mature companies like Vision Labs, for instance. It's one of the leading companies in face recognition globally. And they have been implementing a number of solutions in face recognitions, primarily for the banking industry, and they have a number of applications of anti-fraud and things like that. And also different types of solutions for the smart cities, where they control people, control traffic, all sorts of that things. But I think that is already a hot topic for a number of years, but there are some applications that are really new for the market, and where penetration of AI is, industries where penetration of AI is still undergoing its growth. And these industries like retail, where we can track with the video technologies, we can track the traffic of the customers, the customer behavior, the customer journey maps. So other industries like industrial automation, we have a few companies in the portfolio that are doing the industrial automation, and the smart robots with the computer vision that actually can do different things for the warehouses, for the real estate places. Also, a number of companies we have that are dealing with the contents for metaverse. They're working with the 3D contents that is actually useful for the e-commerce, for instance, where you need to match the clothes or some things you buy. Also, that is useful for making the 3D avatars to participate not only in the gaming industry, but also in the working environments, in different types of communication. That is also a big segment, and we actually will be ready to provide that solutions with our portfolio companies. Also, a number of companies that are actually working in the area of different areas of RPA. And that automatization is helping already enterprises very much, so they can cut costs significantly in automatizing the processes and helping them not to use a lot of people for doing these tasks. And the content generation, also we have the company that is generating automatically the content for e-commerce. So currently it is done manually in most of the places. So I think that is also a very useful thing. And the generation of the content, the content that is language content and video content, different types of images, also is very important for the number of items where you have a lot of SKUs, for instance. Another big thing is the cybersecurity, where we also have a company that is doing the cybersecurity and using AI to make some predictions and actually to predict the threats, not only to work with the threats that already happened. Another interesting example is the company that is working with the agriculture, so with the agriculture companies and identifying the soils and how actually different types of fertilizers are being used on that soil. So different types of applications, and that is very interesting how AI can be applied.
I think, thank you for this. I mean, we clearly see that you all work across industries in some ways and different maturities, and there's quite fascinating use cases in each one and different challenges ahead. So kind of changing perspective a little bit in terms of helping the customer reach a different maturity, how you enable them. I now want to hear more about your company itself in the way that how do you, as a solution provider in the space, what does it really mean for you to become a AI native or transforming to have AI at the core as a solution provider? So we've heard about the industry has a long way to go and you help them, but now it's about your own firm. And in this case, I would like to start with you, Sam. Maybe give us a perspective on AWS in this regards, and also maybe from how the customers have transformed.
Yeah, sure. I'm actually going to kind of spin the question, if you don't mind, and just focus on the customers, because that's kind of how we like to kind of think of things. We kind of talk through the voices and examples of our customers. I think there's so many interesting things going on in the fintech world. I want to kind of shed a light on that. And so kind of when I kind of think of the kind of delineation of how AI machine learning is being kind of applied within fintech, I kind of think of it as, you know, the kind of core use of AI versus the non-core use of AI. And those are kind of the two buckets, at least from my perspective, the mental model I have, and when I speak to fintech customers. And, you know, for me, you know, kind of non-core would be organizations that are using AI machine learning as a tool within their organization, often to drive productivity, efficiency, automation, speed. And then kind of core is really where you almost can't separate the use of you know, machine learning, for example, from the core mission of the business and the business model itself. And you know, from my personal perspective, a lot of the kind of core applications in fintech of AI machine learning are for B2B business models, you know, where fintechs are providing something as a service, and AI machine learning is core to how they do that. And so I can think maybe to illustrate a bit better, I'll just jump into a couple of kind of customer stories from fintechs that we're working with. So kind of on the non-core side, Iola Credit is a Nigerian-based consumer lender. They provide instant credit to customers across Africa through a mobile app. If that customer is able to kind of prove their identity and provide some form of a verifiable source of income. I mean, they do that this using AI. So they use one of our services, Amazon Recognition, which is one of our managed AI services, the top level of the stack, as I defined it earlier, which effectively compares a selfie of the customer with a copy of their ID. And you know, if they match within a certain tolerance level, the identity is kind of confirmed. So they're basically using AI as a tool within the customer onboarding process to streamline it and digitize it on behalf of their customers. And then kind of on the other side of things, looking at the kind of the core use of AI, a similar use case, a company called Onfido, they're a UK-based fintech. They provide ID verification as a service to customers globally across multiple different industries, including financial services. And machine learning is critical to their business model entirely. They effectively use machine learning to identify instances of identity fraud seamlessly using a combination of document recognition, optical character recognition, biometric verification, and more. And so it's critical to how they provide that service to their end customers. So, you know, it's maybe not the exact question, but I think that's how I look at the fintech market, you know, quite broadly between where we're seeing these kind of core and these non-core applications of AI.
No, still fascinating examples. And for me personally, of course, it would be interesting to see in competition of the ones that scale with AI to the rest. But for now, let's hand over to Alex for your perspective on this question in terms of AI at the core and transforming yourself as a business.
Yeah, I think we have different solutions that are on different stages. So if you take like the product life cycle journey, and there are some products that are already mature and on the maturity stage, and there some products on the early stage. So as I mentioned, on the previous question, so the video analytic tools, like for most of the industries, that is a sort of already a commonly used thing. But for some industries, it's still undergoing the rise. And there are products that are on earlier stages, like the metaverse applications. And I think that is what we will be seeing in the next 5-10 years, and the rise of these type of solutions. So we try to, in that, given that, so we try to focus on the hot topics first. That is sort of different RPA solutions, or the chatbots, or different types of smart assistants. So our company consists, our business model actually includes 3 streamlines. So we have the in-house development and venture studio, where we create products ourselves. We have the accelerator for the early stage companies to boost the companies, and we have the VC fund to support on the growth stage. So and we see for these different verticals, we see the different mixture of the pipeline. So the companies that are in earlier stages, they are trying to act in this early stage products on the early stage of this life cycle. So for the mature things, we are selling already different types of smart assistants and different types of video analytic tools, like for retail and other customers, where we can scan a lot of things. We can know about the customers a lot of things. So how they live, what they buy, what are their habits. Another thing is the big data analytics, like we can analyze the customer behavior, and we can mix different sources of information into one area. For the later stages, for the products on the later stages, we can work in other industries. So as I mentioned, and some industries like agriculture, they are still not using a lot of things. Or another interesting area, we have a company that is doing some forecasting on the urbanization, and so that is a smart city solution that helps the cities to increase sustainability. And that is actually the things where it's not so obvious that AI can be applied, but actually it will be applied. So this will be upcoming in the future. So currently what we do, we focus on the things that give the immediate cash flow, and that is RPA, that is smart assistants, that is video analytics, that is some obvious things that can be sold right now. And for the future, we prepare the products that would be giving the cash flow in the future.
Thank you, Alex. I see there's a lot of depth there, and across the different companies, you see quite a number of interesting applications. But let's hand over to Mark and also give him a chance to describe the journey that Automation Hero went through as a company, and how you put AI first or at the core.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, the original question was AI native or transforming to AI. And I think that's really one of the key things to address first off, is that we think it's going to be quite painful for those that are transforming to AI in terms of their offerings for their customers, and why pass that difficulty on to the customers. And I think this is where there's a real natural gap between those that are AI native and those that are trying to transform. We obviously are AI native, which is why I made that point, but our own goal is to be, deliver on that hyper automation vision for our customers. We see ourselves as the future operating system, if you like, for business processes, self-driving processes for the organization. And the way that we see doing that is, we talked a little bit in my earlier response around being able to understand, semi-unstructured data, that contextual understanding, but then bringing it together with that end-to-end platform that operationalizes workflow. So bringing AI and execution closer and closer and closer together, we think, is how we will get to help our customers get to that ultimate goal. But typically the constraints are what today are, how do we get started? What's the business case? Because we're talking about incremental gains here and there that affect different business stakeholders within the organization. It's hard to find one, ultimate use case to bring on a platform. So this is kind of where we're focusing first on some of the key outcomes, particularly around intelligent document processing, where we can address some immediate pains or like the existing use cases like invoice processing, but doing it in a smarter way that starts to get them thinking about the intelligent processing part, and then start their journey as they onboard the platform to think about other use cases and how you can use data to drive the AI to improve the next set of use cases, even things like data cleansing and stuff like that. So how have we seen it with customers already? So we've got a large customer in Germany that is responsible for a large amount of infrastructure projects to look after the Deutsche Bahn and stuff like that over in Germany. And I think they can only service something like 5 to 10% of their vendor contracts, supply chain contracts out there, which is leading to huge wastage. And a lot of it is in, as I mentioned before, semi-structured, unstructured data. So what they came to us for was that they were asking us to look at it at scale to find out where the opportunities were in terms of SLAs or renewal agreements and stuff like that, and then kick off a workflow to the finance department that they could actually then engage with the supplier network in a timely fashion when it counted to renegotiate their contracts. And that simple use case, but just wasn't available before, means that they've been able to, in the process of months, unlock something like $12 million in operational costs from what was 100,000 investment, something like that. So you're starting to see how you can strike from the beginning by tapping into the unstructured data and actually understanding have a contextual understanding about it and turning it into a meaningful outcome is how we think that we'll be able to help our customers get onto that journey, and through the end-to-end platform, look at how we bring AI and execution closer together to work towards the hyper automation goal.
Thank you very much, Mark. So, we heard about how you all each help clients to achieve, let's say, a higher maturity or on their journey towards AI, how you transform yourself and how you make this a key part of your business. In the last 5 or 6 minutes of this panel, it's kind of key that we give an outlook. We've heard a lot about different use cases in this space across industries. I think we've covered the, let's say, last couple of years and what is currently going on at quite a detailed level. And what I like to do is to talk more about the future trends. So what do you expect to see in that space in the coming years? And with that, I like Alex to take a step on this, but let's all be aware that we've got this last section only for a few minutes left till we're out of time. So Alex, please.
Yeah, I think it would come first of all with the structuring of the data. So as was mentioned, a lot of data, enterprises have a lot of data, and they will be structuring this data, they will be indexing this data, and will be using so more and more products that will help the customers to feel more comfortable with buying something or doing something. So it will be a more customized approach, and they will not be spending a lot of time on solving the customer's problem. So that would be happening first of all with the enterprises. RPA will change a lot of processes, make it more efficient, and I think the interesting cases would come with the industries that are not so penetrated with AI, as I mentioned. So the things a lot will be happening in the metaverse. A lot will be happening in the asset management industry. A lot will be happening. For instance, we have in venture capital industry, we have not a lot of automatization, frankly speaking. So a lot of things that are done currently by people, and we require ourselves some AI engine to help us to fulfill the tasks, so we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alex, for this. Let's give Mark also a chance to comment.
Yeah, thank you. I guess there's a number of different ways that this is going to be impacted. But overall, we're going to see faster information for speed of execution, but also speed of decision making happening within finance, better accuracy as well, and even things like employee morale being improving as you're empowering the knowledge worker to focusing more on business innovation and stuff like that. It's quite a broad topic, but I mean, even things like insurance, you can see that's going to be impacted by things like IoT for life insurance, or even like some water damage, and how does that create new data sources that we can use to actually then automate new processes off the back of that, and so on. So, but even things like a standard as KYC, you think about how you'll be able to get all that information to make that so much more effective, and that has a knock-on effect on anti-money laundering, supply chain financing, payment processing, risk, due diligence, even environment, ESG, environmental social governance, and how that's playing a part in portfolio management and so on. So the list is endless.
Thank you very much, Mark. That's a good summary from your side. Thank you for that. Let's give Sam a chance to talk briefly about AI, ML playing a role in the future, particularly for finance.
I'll take a very macro view here, and I'll certainly probably repeat some of the stuff that Mark just said around data access, because I think that's going to be key. I think you can see tailwinds that are kind of paving the way for increased adoption of AI machine learning at a macro level. Data access is certainly one of those things. If you look at IoT, if you look at things like open banking and regulation, that's this kind of democratizing access to data to innovators who can then use tools like AI machine learning to kind of innovate around the customer experience. We're seeing that already. Companies like Clio in the UK using open banking data to create their chatbot, to power their chatbot, and companies like Tink, infrastructure players that are kind of using that data to categorize and then ultimately feed personal finance management solutions. So I think access to data is one of them. Changing customer expectations around having more personalized experiences, and AI machine learning again is a good tool that can solve for that. And then just generally increased digitalization across the industry, and things like KYC, anti-money laundering, fraud, and these sorts of use cases that can be solved. So I think I just expect to see more and more use of AI machine learning to solve use cases across all of those different features. So nice and short, hopefully in time, but yeah, just more of the same, I think. is my summary.
Thank you very much, Sam, but also to Alex and Mark, of course. It's been great discussing it with you. I've been in this space for some decade, but after talking to you across Europe and seeing this new act coming along, I do feel that the future is still bright when it comes to AI. Thank you all, and see you in the Q&A session.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you to our amazing panelists. And that brings us to the end of our day together. It has been a very insightful day. Thank you for staying with us. Great thanks to our speakers for their knowledge and energy.
The conference would not be possible without our lovely team at Plug and Play Frankfurt, especially the Frankfurt operations team, which made a great effort to gather the industry experts, amazing speakers, and startups here during our Fintech and Enterprise Tech Europe 2022. If you have missed something, you will be able to watch the entire recording of the event that will be available at a later date. Also, if you have any more questions, feel free to reach us via frankfurt@pnptc.com. And now I would love to invite to the stage the team behind this amazing event, the heroes without the screen time. Please, guys, join us on stage. Perfect. Again, hope you all enjoyed, and see you next year, this time in person.
Bye.
Bye.